Honorable members, let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, procedural motion, exemption of business from the provisions of Standing Order 43.
Leader of the majority party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 9 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Honorable Speaker, today is usually a day where it is reserved for members' private bills and motions, but given that we have something that we need to accomplish and complete within the shortest time possible and within the allotted time, I request that this House approves this motion so that we can continue with the debate that we left pending yesterday. I request that the Majority Whip, Honorable Osoro, seconds this motion. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I second, and it's very important for us to realize that we've got very serious business to dispense in this House. As far as the debate on the nominees are concerned, and the approval and voting, it's an exercise that takes a bit of some time, and we hope to dispense it within this sitting. So, Honorable Speaker, I second.
It's working now. Is it working now? I'll put the question now, yeah? I propose the question. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing on order number 9 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party, or business sponsored by a committee. Honorable members, I now put the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 9 in today's order paper from the provision of Standing Order number 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party, or business sponsored by a committee. As many of the opinions say aye. As many of the contrary opinions say no. The ayes have it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't know if there are strangers in this House. I can see Honorable Duale in the House, and is one of the subjects of our discussion since yesterday and also today. I think also even in this House, where it's about customs, traditions, we are learning. Honorable Speaker, would you just inform the House if it is in order for Honorable Duale to be in the House this morning? Thank you.
Order. Order. This is not a subject for debate. Honorable Member Adan Bare Duale is a Member of Parliament for Garissa Township until such a time that a writ is received by or is issued by the Speaker of the House of the National Assembly. So only after then is when he ceases to become a Member of Parliament for that constituency. What order are you asking, Honorable? That matter has been put to rest. Proceed and tell me what's your point of order. Are you sure you have your card?
Use this one.
Mr. Speaker, as a seasoned Deputy Speaker who served in the 10th Parliament, you have said it right. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ranking Member Bandi will agree with me that President, we vetted a number of nominees, including the late General Kaiseri. And Mr. Speaker, until this House approves me, I am now a state officer. And the moment I hear that the House has approved me and there is a swearing in the State House, then I will send my resignation letter to the Speaker. In this debate, I cannot contribute and I cannot vote. But I have the right to sit and listen on behalf of the people of Garissa Township, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know why even Alice Ohama is there. It's a privilege. And if you allow me later in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker, if you will be on the chair, I have to make my final farewell speech or exit speech as I leave the legislature and go to the executive, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, protect me from honorable members.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, this matter has been put to rest. Honorable Duale, that was a point of information, not a point of order. But it's well in line with the President's, and you will have your moment in the afternoon also to give your final speech before you proceed on and take over the new responsibility. Let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 9, special motion, approval of appointment of Cabinet Secretaries, the Attorney General, and the Secretary to the Cabinet.
I'm informed that the person who was the person who was contributing is the MP for Marsabit. Proceed. You have 7 minutes, honorable member.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And allow me to congratulate you because it is my first time to speak after you have been given that position. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to continue from where I left last evening, and I just want to now mention about Honorable Penina Malonza, who is one of the nominees. And from the papers and recommendations and the report that has been tabled before us, it is quite clear that Malonza qualifies for the position and she is equal to the task that is ahead of her. But my question is, we had 21 nominees and Penina Malonza is qualified enough. She presented herself well, and I wonder why we have drawn the attention of the entire nation on her and exposed her to this extent. That is why today I want to join the other honorable members who have already said that this lady and she qualifies fully for the nomination and she qualifies for the position to be the CS and to lead that any ministry that will be given to her. Mr. Speaker, when you look at her performance in the past in terms of her employment record, in terms of her academic professional qualification, in terms of honors and awards, and professional association and membership, she is among the top cream of the society. And so I would want to join others and say that she qualifies for the position, and we should not continue intimidating her and exposing her further. I also want to say something about Asha Juma. Asha Juma has been a member of parliament, and she has also been a member of Parliamentary Service Commission. She has served this country very well, and she has always been bold enough to address whatever needs to be addressed, and I believe that she's also qualified. The issue of her integrity or her involvement in other things, that is beyond us, and as long as she got all the clearances that she needed and she was cleared to vie for the position, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't see why we should continue condemning her. Linturi, I sat with him in Senate for the last 5 years in 12th Parliament. I know his performance. I know how qualified he is and what he can do in the agriculture ministry because of his background and the passion he has. And so, Mr. Speaker, sir, mine is just to say that I support all the nomination of all the three and the report that has been tabled before us, and especially Penina, so that she can get that position. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the situation in our country, I touched on this last night, what Kenyans are looking forward now is the government that can quickly put the systems in place and start working. Kenyans are tired of seeing drama from one drama, and they want performance, they want people to serve them, they want us to get out of, you know, the problems and the challenges that we have been facing. And so mine is just to, once again, call upon all the nominees, and I'm happy that Mheshimiwa Duale is with us, so that once they are appointed and they are sworn in, they get into business and serve Kenyans, because that is what every Kenyan is looking for. As again I said last night, I touched something on the economy of the country. We want ministers that will be there so that we can revive our economy, so that they go extra mile, not for themselves, but for the country. As I said, there are some areas that did not manage to get a CS. I believe the nominated CSs, the people who are there now, who will be there in the offices, will represent us and will be able to give us eco services. Like Marsabit, one of the largest, it is the largest county in the country. And so we need proper service from all these nominees so that in case we need anything, the fact that we do not have a CS now does not mean that we will not get the services equally with the others. And so mine is just to plead and to tell all the others that serve all Kenyans equally. You represent the entire country, and we are waiting so that we see your performance. Mr. Speaker, sir, I second, and it is my prayer that soon they will be sworn into their offices. Thank you.
The MP for Igamba Ngombe.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise up to contribute to this motion and the report of vetting of Cabinet Secretaries, CSs for this country. Mr. Speaker, having gone through the report, I wish to say the following. One, I've looked at the report and seen the objection that those members who sat in the committee had against one Penina Malonza. And Mr. Speaker, having listened to the CS during our presentation to the committee, I think the CS is competent, Mr. Speaker. We can't just be sitting down as Parliament or as a committee and we judge people based on their oratory skills. We can't base the performance of people based on their oratory skills, how well they can talk, how beautiful they can talk, and how fluently they can talk, Mr. Speaker. In this country, Mr. Speaker, we had a president called Mwai Kibaki. He didn't have so good oratory skills, but he is one man who really transformed this country. Mr. Speaker, looking at the cabinet secretaries, I believe the president didn't pick the CSs from people who attended his inauguration party. I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, these are people the president has sat down with. Kenya Kwanza has a manifesto. The manifesto addresses tourism issues. It addresses loans issues. It addresses irrigation. It addresses various issues of this country. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure when the president was picking these people, these are people he sat down with. These are the people he conceived his manifesto with. So when the president picks Honorable Ntuli as a CS for agriculture, I'm sure the president has sat with Ntuli down and is sure Ntuli understands his goal on agriculture well. When the president picked Kithure Kindiki for security, I'm sure the president has sat with Kithure Kindiki down and they have agreed on a way forward for security in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say the following. One, looking at somebody like Aisha Juma, I listened to Aisha Juma. I've served in this parliament, last parliament with Aisha Juma. She is a woman I can say who is qualified to hold the position of a CS. And what I would urge this House, Mr. Speaker, is we drop the side shoes and pass on these CSs and approve them, because we went allowed this country, all of us, regardless of our affiliation in politics, regardless of the coalition we belong to. We promised Kenya roads, we promised the Kenyans water, we promised the Kenya good living standards. And it's now almost 60 days since we came to this house. We sat in this house since we were sworn in. It's almost 100 days, Mr. Speaker, and the Kenyans are waiting for service. Mr. Speaker, I urge this house we drop the issue of divisions and approve these CSs. Kenyans are waiting for service. Mr. Speaker, as we talk right now, children are not attending school due to anger. Kenyans are waiting and see what we'll do about that issue. And that issue will not be addressed by Kenya Kwanza or Azimio or any coalition. It will be addressed by us as leaders in this house. So, Mr. Speaker, as we debate the issue of these CSs, I wish that we don't become also a court. I want to congratulate Honorable Ntuli because of being so genuine. When he appeared before the committee, he himself volunteered to say he has 35 civil cases in this country. You didn't even have the list of how many. You would have said that one. You would have said 20. You would have said 18. But in his own genuineness, Honorable Ntuli said that 35 civil issues in this country which will be resolved. So, and this country, we have a constitution that says you are innocent until you are proven guilty. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge this house not to become a court. I urge this house not to become a jury. These people, Ntuli was vying as a governor. Aisha Juma was vying as a governor. Having been approved by all institutions of this country, EACC and everything, they were approved to vie as leaders in this country. If they want today, they would be governors in this country. So let's avoid the side issues and approve these people to become CSs, and we start serving this nation. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say the following. I think these people who have been nominated coming from the political divide. I've heard Kenyans discussing about the presidential nominees, and they say he nominated politicians and he nominated technocrats and professionals. Why does one cease to be, at what point do you cease to be a technocrat when you are elected? I wish to say that if you are a politician and you happen to be a professional at the same time, it's an added advantage that you are able to deal with the people, that you are professional and you have an added advantage of being able to deal with the people being a politician. So this issue of crucifying people, nominees, and calling them politicians, being elected does not make you cease to be a professional at any particular time. Mr. Speaker, the greatest challenge that we are told the CS for tourism had is that she didn't present herself well, she didn't talk well, she didn't answer questions well. I still cannot get the measure of this well. You know, as politicians, we are used to believing that people who are so good in speaking, people who are so good at all skills, make the best leaders, which I don't believe is true. We are people who can speak too well, but can't change the living standards of even their neighbors. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's unfair. I think the president nominated these people, having sat down with them. I'm sure these are not people he picked from his inauguration party. These are people he has sat down with. He has sat with the CS for tourism. They have discussed the tourism, and he is sure that she is competent to handle tourism and deliver the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Mr. Speaker, I wish to urge this House. Let's drop the side issues. Let's stop wasting time for Kenyans. Kenyans are waiting for service. Our term is 5 years. We are already wasting almost half of our term in side issues and competing which side is stronger than the other. And finally, when we go back to Kenyans, Kenyans will not judge me as a member of Kenya Kwanza. The people of Chukegambangombe will not judge me as being a member of parliament who supported the president or as a member of Kenya Kwanza. They will judge me with the kilometers of tarmac that will have been put in their constituency. They will judge me with the irrigation project that will have been instituted in Chukegambangombe. They will judge me with the county headquarters Kadwana today, which is dormant, whether it will be functional by then or not. They will judge me by Chuka General Hospital, a whole county that doesn't have a level 5 hospital since independence, whether we'll have one or not. So these side issues won't add up when it comes to the election next time, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, because I know many people want to contribute to this motion, I beg to submit, Mr. Speaker, and see we approve all the nominees as were presented to this House, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
MP for Mavoko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Let me, from the onset, congratulate you as a deputy or serving in the Speaker's panel. I know you are an able leader, and you are going to guide this House accordingly. Mr. Speaker, let me join my colleagues in contributing to this motion of the appointment of the Committee of Appointment. Mr. Speaker, I also congratulate them for sitting for long hours, particularly the Speaker who was the chairman of this committee. Mr. Speaker, I know it was a grueling exercise, which also not easy. Mr. Speaker, I have looked at the report, and I know this country, having elected a president, as per Article 152, that speaks of the cabinet. It is through the cabinet that the president is able to make his work easy. And Mr. Speaker, when I looked at the nominees and the report, I agree with it. Mr. Speaker, there are some members, particularly those who have served in this House, including my friend, the Honorable Duale, Mulcomen, and the rest. Mr. Speaker, I know with these colleagues being cabinet secretaries, maybe our work as honorable members might be easy. In the past, Mr. Speaker, we've had difficulties accessing these CSs. And now, I also agree with members who say this is the time that this House should stamp its authority to prove to Kenyans that Parliament is an arm of government that is independent. Mr. Speaker, this House has powers to check the executive. And Mr. Speaker, now, I know we are here campaigning for CSs to be appointed. Mr. Speaker, this House must put its foot down. And for us to approve these nominees, they must know that this House has the powers to approve them and recall them, impeach them. Mr. Speaker, I know in the past, these members have been queuing at CS's offices, and they stay there for hours for a CS to see a member of parliament. Now they can see the pain. Mr. Speaker, if you are appealing to members of parliament to support you, then it's a wake-up call to them that once they occupy these offices, they should listen to the representatives of the Kenyans who elected us here, not to sit in those offices and get occupied by or be dictated by power. Mr. Speaker, when I looked at the list, nominee number 24, Mr. Speaker, I did not agree with it, and I agree with the members. One Penina Malonza should not have been vindicated like that. Mr. Speaker, when I looked at the parameter that they used to reject Penina Malonza, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking my questions, these questions. Did she qualify? Does she have the relevant papers? Has she been in employment? Has she served in the government? Mr. Speaker, when I looked at what they are saying, that she had no knowledge of the area that she wants to be CS. Mr. Speaker, I agree with members. Sometimes there are people who, once they go to an interview, maybe they get excited. Mr. Speaker, I urge this House, if we are going to pass that list as it is, then Penina Malonza should not be discriminated on a parameter that was not applied to anybody else, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this House, at the 11th Parliament, we had a candidate. And she also appeared shaky in front of the appointments committee. But she went ahead to be CS. Mr. Speaker, Penina Malonza does not sit in the Ministry of Tourism. And you know, the work of a CS is not necessarily to understand what happens. There are PSs, there are technical staff, and Mr. Speaker, for anybody to ask her questions concerning tourism and culture, that was unfair to her, because leadership does not mean that you have to know. When she sits in that office, Mr. Speaker, a woman of her stature will understand what pertains to tourism and culture. And I am sure we'll only gauge her performance once she has occupied that office. Mr. Speaker, I urge this House to approve one Penina Malonza. And I want to appreciate members, particularly the Honorable Irene Kasali, who has been in pursuit of trying to bring a motion so that we look into how we can include Penina Malonza into this list. Mr. Speaker, I urge members to support this motion so that this lady, who is right now, I'm sure she's destroyed. Mr. Speaker, I urge these members that we approve Penina Malonza to be in the cabinet, and that will be a win for all women of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I am sure once we approve that motion, we will pass the motion, we'll pass the list as it is, and allow those CSs to help the president deliver his manifesto. And Mr. Speaker, so that we solve these issues, I have seen the president has said that unga will be, the price of unga will come down after 1 year. So maybe with the inclusion of this cabinet, maybe the president will be advised accordingly, and the cost of unga and the fuel will come down. Those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much. Thank you.
Laikipia North.
Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika. Naomba nikupongeze pia kwa uteuzi wako kama msaidizi wa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, nashukua pia nafasi hii kuwashukuru wapiga kura wa Laikipia Kaskazini kwa kutunikia mimi nafasi nyingine kuhudumu katika bunge ya awamu ya 13. Mheshimiwa Spika, wabunge wote walioketi hapa siku ya leo waliweza kupigwa msasa na kupigwa darubini na wapiga kura waliowachagua. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, wote watakubaliana na mimi kwamba haikuwa kazi rahisi msasa na darubini waliopitia kwa mwananchi. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kazi ya nyumba hii ni kuwapiga msasa wale ambayo wamependekezwa na rais kuwa mawaziri kwa sababu ya ustawi na maendeleo ya jamii ya Kenya. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kazi iliyo mbele inayomsubiri rais wetu mpendwa wa nchi hii ni kazi kubwa, inahitaji uadilifu, inahitaji uaminifu, na bila shaka haiwezi kufanywa na watu ambayo maadili yao yako na tashwishi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kutoka kwa jamii ya wafugaji, napenda kumpongeza na kumshukuru Mheshimiwa Rais. Manake ninapowatazama watatu ambaye wameteuliwa katika jamii ya wafugaji, akiwepo aliyekuwa kinara wa bunge hii wa wengi Mheshimiwa Aden Bare Duale, Mheshimiwa Spika, bila shaka maadili yao si ya kutilia hofu, haina tashwishi yoyote, na zaidi ya hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni watu ambaye wako na utu na ubinadamu. Ukimtazama Mheshimiwa Soipan Ntuya kwa mfano, Mheshimiwa Spika, tangu Mungu kuumba dunia hajawahi patikana mwanamke wa jamii ya Kimasai kuwa waziri katika nchi ya Kenya. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, uteuzi wa Soipan sio bora mama, ni mama bora. Manake Mheshimiwa Spika, hata kama tunataka kina mama wawe mawaziri na wawe viongozi, hatuwezi sema bora mama tu, lakini ni mama bora. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia huyo msichana wa Kimasai ni mwanasheria, amekuwa mbunge mara 2 katika bunge hii, na ameweza kuendeleza maendeleo mengi sana katika kaunti ya Narok. Mheshimiwa Spika, napenda kusema hivi, ili rais wetu aweze kushukisha bei ya unga, ili rais wetu aweze kushukisha bei ya mafuta, ni sharti tupambane na ufisadi katika nchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, na haitakuwa jambo bora kupitisha tu na kufanya bunge hii kuwa mahali ya kupiga tu muhuri kila kitu ambaye inakuja bungeni hili, manake Wakenya wanatutazama na Wakenya wameweka matumaini yao kwetu. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sasa hivi hali sio hali tena. Wananchi wengi kule kaskazini mwa nchi wanalala bila chakula, wanakufa njaa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia hali ya usalama imekuwa si hali tena, mara wizi wa mifugo, mara mauaji ya kiholela. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, wanaochukua nyadhifa hizi ni lazima wapigwe darubini sawasawa, na ni wawe watu ambaye tutahakikishiwa kwamba Wakenya watapata haki yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, nilikuwa natazama katiba ya Kenya asubuhi hii. Ukiangalia sura ya 4 yazungumzia juu ya haki ya Mkenya. Baadhi ya haki iliyozungumziwa Mheshimiwa Spika ni haki ya Mkenya kuwa salama, mali yake na yeye binafsi. Lakini Mheshimiwa, ukitazama sasa hivi Kitui pale, wananchi wa Kitui wanahangaika kwa sababu ya kuhangaishwa na Wakenya wenzao. Ukitazama Laikipia kaskazini, tunahangaishwa na majambazi ambaye wanatoka kaunti jirani. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wetu tumekatazwa haki yetu ambaye tumepewa na katiba ya Kenya, haki ya mali yetu kulindwa na nafsi yetu kulindwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, haki nyingine ambayo Wakenya wengi wamekatazwa, katiba na sheria ya Kenya inasema elimu ya msingi ni lazima na ni haki ya kila mtoto Mkenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, leo hii ukitembea kaunti ya Baringo, haswa katika eneo bunge jirani langu la Tiati, utapata kwamba kwa wale watu zaidi ya 70% hawawezi kusoma wala kuandika. Mheshimiwa Spika, lawama sio kwao. Lawama ni kwa serikali ambayo imewakataza haki yao ya kimsingi ya elimu. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati serikali inakataza wananchi wa Kenya haki zao za kisheria, hata mara nyingine inastahili wananchi kuishtaki serikali yao. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nasema nini? Nasema kwamba naomba Mwenyezi Mungu wale watakaochukua mawaziri hawa, haswa wa elimu na usalama, wahakikishe kwamba haki zetu tulizonyimwa kwa miaka na mikaka tumeweza kurejeshewa na kuhakikisha kwamba tuko na hiyo haki. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukitazama sura ya 6 ya katiba ya Kenya yazungumzia juu ya uadili ama maadili yanayoambatana na utumishi wa umma na watumishi wa umma. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naomba tu Mungu kwa siku karibu tuone Wakenya wenyewe wakikataa kuteuliwa iwapo wanajua wako na madoadoa. Manake Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna baadhi yao ambaye wako na doa kulingana na maadili yao Mheshimiwa Spika. Na unajua Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi kama mama sijui vile nitaenda kwa ofisi ya mtu ambaye ako na shtuma ya ubakaji. Nitakuwa na hofu sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ingekuwa ni jambo la busara iwapo ndugu zetu katika Kenya Kwanza wamekosa watu wenye maadili mazuri, wangetuomba upande huu, tuko na wengi tu Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, nasema hivi kwa sababu singalitaka kusikia mwanamke ameenda kutafuta kazi ama ameenda kutafuta kutumikiwa katika ofisi ya umma kisha anatoka nje amebakwa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi niko na hofu na baadhi ya wengine hapo, japokuwa sitawataja, lakini Mheshimiwa iko na iwapo mtu amekiri kwamba ako na kesi 35 Mheshimiwa Spika, hata akitunukiwa nafasi hiyo, hata yeye mwenyewe akili yake haitatulia, hataweza kutumikia akiwa na ile akili tulivu. Na kwa sababu kuwa na kesi sio kwamba kusema kwamba huyu mtu ako na hiyo makosa, lakini kwa sasa hivi wapewe nafasi ya malizane na kesi yake 35, wapewe Wanakenya wengine ambao hawana doa, hawana kasoro, hawana tashwishi, waweze kutumikia Wakenya. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ningetaka kurejelea kwa swala la Penina Malonza. Huyu mwanamke maskini anapewa lawama eti kwamba hakuweza kuongea. Mheshimiwa Spika, si mara ya kwanza wanawake kulaumiwa. Hata katika shamba la Edeni, Adam ambaye alitangulia hilo shamba alilaumu Hawa kwamba ndiye alimfanya kukosa, lakini yeye mwenyewe ndiye alitangulia hapo. Yeye mwenyewe ndiye angesema ile tunda lisiliwe Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo binti huyu Malonza, mimi naona kwamba wataka tu kumfanya kafara bure. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, iwapo ni kupita, basi sharti huyu binti pia apitishwe. Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika.
The MP for Tigania West.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this motion. Honourable Speaker, I would like to thank the President for the mix in the selection. The 24 are very different. They are very representative in terms of their careers, in terms of their background, in terms of their academia, and even the regional balancing. So we thank him for that. Honourable Speaker, I would like to thank the committee for doing their work very well. They did a good job. They asked probing questions. We watched this. And they also wrote a detailed report which has informed the debate in this House. Honourable Speaker, They have majorly explored on a few areas, which I would like to highlight for the purposes of this House. Integrity and the directions of integrity, and I do not need to highlight what integrity is. It's there in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and everybody can refer to it. They were looking for the demonstrable knowledge on topical, administrative, and technical issues. They were also looking at the requisite abilities and academic qualifications and professional experience. Honourable Speaker, the committee pronounced itself in bringing us a report and giving us the process through which they went. I would like to highlight a few issues that were covered in this report, Honourable Speaker. First of all, the compliance with taxation, all of them passed. The clearance with the DCI, only one and a few issues. Honourable Speaker, when it came to help, we realized that most of them, all of them who got loan from help were able to clear their loans. And I want to highlight on a few cases, 7 of them did not find it necessary to take help loan. And what do I see? People who live the less advantaged or the disadvantaged to benefit from such state provisions. Honourable Speaker, among these two, I single out Aisha Jumwa and Mithika Linturi. Honourable Speaker, I would like to be specific on a few issues. Let's talk about Aisha Jumwa. Who is Aisha Jumwa, according to what we know and according to the report as it is? Aisha Jumwa has been a struggler all her life. Aisha Jumwa has been elected the member, a women representative of Kilifi. The Kilifi people trusted her with Kilifi, and she did her job very well. She was not barred from contesting for governorship. Well, she did not win as a governor, but should we therefore block her future in this particular respect? Shouldn't we realize that she struggled against a man and almost beat him, and then realize that this is a very for the right person, and somebody who is one working, and therefore give her the opportunity to serve this country in a different capacity? We should not deny her this opportunity. Kenyans, Honourable Speaker, are governed by a constitution and law. We know there is a matter that is pending, and rumor has it that this matter has been settled. I may not allude to that. I am an examiner, Honourable Speaker, at the university level, and I give Aisha Jumwa 72%. Honourable Speaker, let me turn over to Penina Malonza. Penina Malonza has an admirable career. She has gone through a lot. She has a private sector experience. Honourable Speaker, she has been the Deputy Governor of Kitui, and she has also done a good job. She has left a track record. The only problem that the committee cited was she did not demonstrate knowledge on topical issues on matters tourism, matters wildlife. The question is, and I would like to pose this question to this House, were we looking for this lady as a consultant in tourism and wildlife, or did we want a policymaker, and the policies are meant out of advisory? Honourable Speaker, since we were not looking for that, this lady deserves 70%. Let me turn very briefly to Mithika Linturi. All of us know about Mithika Linturi. Mithika Linturi is one man whom we can describe in the late Biwot's own word, a total man. Mithika Linturi does not take anything lying. The fact that Mithika Linturi's name has been tarnished in this country is because he stands as a man and he stands with his mind. He speaks his mind. He says the truth as it is. He is one fellow who has clearly articulated the failures of the previous regime. And this regime has made sure that they tarnish his name in the best way possible. Honourable Speaker, there is a mention of cases, and somebody has the audacity to say 35 cases. Honourable Speaker, these 35 cases can be reduced to one case. They all come from the same source, and it's a source that we would not like to disclose. We would not like to discuss such issues here. These are domestic matters. Although domestic matters might find themselves in court, we should leave the court to resolve this issue. So I'm talking about only one issue. Honourable Speaker, Mithika Linturi, if I may say so, is one of the people who has done a lot for this country. If I may demonstrate who Mithika Linturi is, academically, his case was taken by EACC to court, and the court pronounced him clean, pronounced his records as right, and therefore his papers are okay. He has served the public in many capacities. He is one person who has been a private sector entrepreneur who has done very well before he got into politics. He got into politics and became the Gembe South Member of Parliament for 10 years. And he has a development record that is impeccable in Meru. If you want to know how development is conducted, go to Gembe South. And my brother here, John Paul Mwirigi, will tell you that he found a pedestal of development upon which he has carried on. Mithika Linturi's record on the other hand, was also trusted by the Meru people. He was given the senatorial job by the Meru people. And he took the Kiraito Murongo government to task. And he has satisfied the Merus as somebody who has worked very, very, very hard. It's one person who goes out of his way in service for the for humanity. He is a person known for pro bono activities or for charitable activities. One person who pays 1.2 million shillings as school fees to children from the disadvantaged background. He's supporting that 9 children as we speak. How many of us are doing that? Mr. Speaker, this is not CDF bursary. This is somebody's money. On the other hand, he is somebody who is involved in food distribution to the disadvantaged. He is a person who supports institutions in socio-economic affairs. He has been mentioned, he has never been mentioned in any inquiry report. He has never been laid off from any office because of malperformance or because of lack of performance. Honourable Speaker, this is the man we need in agriculture and livestock, and I'll tell you why. He is an innovative dealer. Agriculture needs innovation. He is an entrepreneur. We need to explore entrepreneurship in agriculture. Honourable Speaker, he is a compassionate person. He is supporting people right now. We need a compassionate person in a sector that supports 75% of this economy. 75% of the people of Kenya depend on agriculture. So we need somebody who has feeling for the people. Honourable Speaker, he is a hard worker. We need a hard worker in agriculture. Therefore, we need Bideka Lutori in agriculture. Honourable Speaker, in my very considered opinion, I would give him 75%. So if you look at 70%, 72%, and 75%, then all of them have gotten A's in the university level. Honourable Speaker, let us pass the 24 nominees unaltered. I rest my case. Thank you very much. And I offer my few minutes to my friend Meli so that we can go for another business. Thank you very much.
But you will, as many as they are. Proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I also want to take the cue from my colleagues to congratulate you on your election on the Speaker's panel. To Honourable Speaker, I want to say that I also want to thank the President for the good work that he did. The mix that he has actually appointed from politicians and professionals is quite commendable. Also, the members of the executive are all drawn from across the country. Honourable Speaker, I want to comment on the appointees or the nominees. Honourable Speaker, I want to say that the fact that the nominees were formerly members of Parliament have the feel of the people on the ground. Previously, Honourable Speaker, you will find that most of the professionals who are in the cabinet did not understand what the citizens wanted, what the people wanted on the ground. The fact that we have Honourable Duale, Honourable Kipchumba Murkomen, and many others who are formerly members of Parliament and served for many years will surely understand the needs presented to them by members of this House. So, on Honourable Aisha Jumwa, I want to say that this is a true bottom-up lady. She has actually risen through the ranks. She actually dropped out of school. That did not actually make her to stop in her life. She went ahead and became a councillor. She went ahead and did exams from 4. She went ahead and did a certificate. Honourable Speaker, I want to urge this House that we really assist and we pass the name of Honourable Aisha Jumwa because she has actually proven that life cannot stop just because you have dropped in Form 1 or Form 2. She went ahead, Honourable Speaker, to even vie to be a member of Parliament and even to be a governor. Honourable Speaker, you'll realize that when she fight for a governor, she was actually allowed. She was actually accepted to go through. So, Honourable Speaker, I want to say that this House has a responsibility.
Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members.
Yes.
Order, honourable members. This is an August House. Yes. And for God's sake, I've been away for 10 years from this place, and things have got to look like an August House. It's not a fish market. So if you have to consult, you consult in absolute, inaudible tones. Proceed, honorable member, and the honorable member shall be listened. Order. Order, 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 honorable member.
Thank you.
Order. Order, honorable member. Ngamia market also, for that matter. Honorable members, for God's sake, let's treat this as an August house and let's consult. And if you want to consult seriously, there are a number of lounges, including the ones at the back and the ones in the front. So proceed, honorable member.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for restoring order in the House. Honorable Speaker, on Honorable Inturi, I want to say that this is a man who has actually been very honest. He actually came up and articulated these issues very well and said he had 35 cases. The fact that he owned up and actually clarified the issues that he had, and in fact, Honorable Speaker, he even contested to be the governor of Meru, and he actually met all the requirements as by the law. So, Honorable Speaker, the fact that the committee or the minority have actually written a minority report rejecting his appointment or his nomination, Honorable Speaker, is actually not right. Honorable Speaker, on Penina Malonza, if you look at her academic record, Penina is actually having a very good academic record. She has actually had 2 master's degrees. She has led a number of NGOs. She has actually been a deputy governor. She has actually proven and gotten a number of international awards. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that let us pass all these nominees, allow the Kenya Kwanza government under the leadership of President Ruto to ensure that we have a new government running and it is in place. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
MP for Mahaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. I would wish to indicate that first I want to congratulate the Committee of Appointments, which looked at the various nominees. They were acting on our behalf, and now we have a chance to see what they did. Honorable Speaker, on the onset, let me tackle one issue which has been spoken on by very many speakers, the issue of Malonza. That I noticed, Honorable Speaker, that yesterday after I heard that the committee had not approved her, I went back to look at the videos of her performance, because that seemed to be the main reason why she was not qualifying. And I noticed that away from Speaker, protect me from Honorable Ndwale and his team for consulting too high.
Order, honorable members.
So I went through those videos, and I realized that some of the questions that embarrassed that lady were very specific questions that required a technical person. And in this level of trying to come up with CSS, we may not need that. Some questions were so specific, like how much did we budget for compensation of those who were actually killed by wild animals? I thought that was too specific for a question and it may require a technical person. Furthermore, did you know that, honorable members, if a snake were to bite you, you are supposed to take a P3? I know most of you are not aware. That may not be used as a basis to make judgment on you when you want to become a minister for tourism. So I think we don't need to go that direction. Honorable Speaker, in education fraternity, when you are questioning or interviewing a person in that area, there are levels of questions. They rank in what we call the Blue Moon's pyramid of questioning. We have questions that require remembering. We have questions that require understanding. We have questions that require analyzing. The highest level of questioning is that of creativity. Currently in the CBC, we are actually training our students to go to the level of creativity. So the questions should have been much as possible, been those that can lead to creativity and not those ones of remembering, because the budget and other specific questions can be found on Google. Number two, Honorable Speaker, I noticed an effect that we call in examinations the halo effect. The halo effect is a situation whereby there's a tendency for the previous experience to make you have an opinion on the following one. Given that this was a cabinet and a mixture of both politicians and non-politicians, there was a tendency for possibly the panel to... The politicians were speaking. And therefore, when they faced a person who is not a very accomplished politician, they had a halo effect. And therefore, I think she doesn't need to be completely ruled out as a person who can work, but I believe she needs to be given a chance. I'm looking forward to possibly somebody moving an amendment that as we discuss this particular debate, we should just be discussing it together with amendment that this Malonza be included in the cabinet. Honorable Speaker, the last cabinet had challenges that were very specific. When the makers of the Constitution decided that the cabinet members should possibly not be politicians, we had the idea that the Moi cabinet had had many, many challenges of them being too much loyal at the expense of working for the people. But the previous cabinet equally suffered the same. And those who are taking cabinet positions, including Honorable Ndwale, who is seated here, I want to ask them to be people who will be loyal not only to the executive, but to the people of Kenya, and more so to the parliament. We don't expect to see a cabinet that will still be very arrogant, a cabinet that will not be willing to answer questions of members of parliament, and a cabinet that will run it like it is them to show it all. We have had challenges, and I'll mention specific areas. The Minister of Transport, for instance, there was a serious challenge. I tried to reach to the CS Transport 5 years, I never saw him. The Minister of Interior, and I'm happy the nominee Kindiki is a gentleman who understands. It was impossible to deal with the CS Interior. He was operating at a level that you wouldn't imagine. Another area was the area of education, where the CS was a one-man show and ran the whole show alone. I'm actually appealing to this House as we approve this cabinet to send them a signal that they should be responsible to the House. Honorable Speaker, specifically I want to deal with the area of education. The CS Education, who is the nominee here, must be ready to know that as he comes into office, he is faced with the issue of CBC, which is affecting the education system. He is faced with the issue of delocalization, which is already on in this House, and I want to thank the MP for Lurambi for having moved this motion. He is faced with the issue of Teacher Service Commission and its role as both a regulator and an employer. He is faced with the issue of non-monetary CBS to the workers, and specifically the teachers of Kenya, which we'll have to deal with. He is further faced with the issue of infrastructure in our schools and the transition of CBC. And furthermore, he's facing the issue of teacher shortage in our schools, among others. And therefore, they should come to fore while ready to do this business. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I want to say this. The committee did a good job. But where I come from in Western, it will also appear very weak, Honorable Speaker, for you to deal with several names, up to 24 names, and only come back home with one innocent lady as the only person whom you killed from your hunting expedition. It's a weakness, it's not a strength. I want to urge this House to pass the entire list of nominees as they have been proposed. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Gilgil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
What's your point of order?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think some of us who are new in this House need to be heard and seen.
Yeah.
Because I am among the members of Parliament who were elected recently as the first timers.
Okay.
And it is very difficult for us to be recognized or to be seen in this House. In fact, from the first time I made my maiden speech, up to now, I've been among the first people who are coming in these chambers to look in. only to leave even like yesterday.
Honorable.
I left at the last minute at 7 p.m. and I was among the first people to lock in and not be seen. We are all equal.
Honorable member, honorable member, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, when the speaker is on his or her feet, you're supposed to freeze. You can't keep on talking from the sides. For God's sake, let us protect the dignity of the House. Honorable member, I agree with you. I sympathize and empathize with your condition. The only thing you have to know is that I was here. Order! Order! Oh! I have to bend maybe, yeah? What you have to appreciate is I have the only members who are with me, the 10th Parliament, are less than 10 here. They're about 5 or 6. And so I don't know who came in the last term or who came in this term. So whenever you have that kind of genuine concerns, you register with the clerks and let them bring to me that information. I'll certainly make such affirmative action to be able to get you all chances to be able to talk and contribute. Listen to everybody. Yes, I agree with you. Engage with the speaker from the benches. By the way, you're not chaired. So I appreciate, but please, let's hear Madam Wangari. Yes, what's the information you want to give me, honorable member, for what? For which constituency? For Baringo North, yes, proceed.
Not information, Mr. Speaker. I'm saying point of intervention. And I want to, Mr. Speaker, request that those members of appointment committee who have hard time with the nominees be left so that those of us who have not been the members of appointment committee would have a chance.
Very well taken. Very well taken. Yes, what's your intervention, honorable member, for Nakuru? I was in this house when I knew almost everybody in the house by 3 names. But we were only about 200 that time. Now we are almost 400. So proceed.
I know. Thank you, Honorable
Forgive
Speaker.
me for not knowing your name. Yes.
It's okay. My name is David Gikaria, Member of Parliament, Nakuru Town, East Oko.
Proceed, Honorable Gikaria.
Honorable Speaker, I totally agree with my colleagues.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it's not the right time, but with your indulgence, Honorable Speaker, I know this is a house of debate. If we could reduce from 10 to 5 minutes and every person has, then that will quicken and fast. I know it's a house. I know, Bandi. It is only for the new members. Bandi, maybe you can be given the 10 minutes. But for the new members, I'm just asking for your indulgence. I know it's not right time, but only for 5 minutes. Maybe somebody can talk for
we have done. Hold on. Honorable members from although I'm a little bit rusted now, I mean 10 years away from the chair, you forget quite a bit. But then if I remember very well, if it is the intention of the majority of the members of the House that this debate should be limited to 5 minutes to accommodate as many of that idea, almost everybody, then I think, I'm not sure if I can put in a question. Can I put in a question? Bring me, can I have the standing order? A moment, let me just read the standing orders here. Eh? No. Order. Yes. My attention has been drawn, and there's a provision in the standing orders, a motion for limitation of the debate under this standing order may be made without notice, they said. But then 3 says a motion under this paragraph 2 shall not be made in the course of the debate itself. It can only be made at the beginning of the debate. So at the beginning of the debate, that would have been possible. But order. Course of the debate, which it's first, unless it's moved after. Order. You can move, because I presume this debate is going to continue tomorrow. Am I right? Today is the last day. Okay. Unfortunately, now it's on the discretion of the members of parliament to limit themselves to 5 minutes, please, so that we can give as much opportunity to as many as are willing to do that and as possible. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also empathize with members. Having sat there yesterday, it's not easy to get members to do 5 minutes, but I'll try to do so. So I'll start by, of course, congratulating the committee led by our own speaker. They sat long hours. They have gone through the paperwork. They have gone through the vetting process, long days, and they came up with this report, Mr. Speaker. I also want to congratulate the President, Mr. Speaker, because it is not easy to get 22 members of a cabinet from 47 counties which all desire to get a cabinet secretary, not able to get members from 42 ethnic tribes to be able to be represented in the cabinet like this. But Mr. Speaker, I want to note that most of the members that have been vetted and approved in this report, Mr. Speaker, is that they have all the experience. And I think the issue of combining politicians in this cabinet, Mr. Speaker, we are looking forward to a better cabinet, a cabinet that does not look down upon the elected members, a cabinet that deals with issues as they come, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the entry of this team is full. Right now we are talking drought, people are hungry. In my constituency, everywhere people are suffering, Mr. Speaker. We are having the nominee, some of the nominees, Mr. Speaker, with farms that had maize, Mr. Speaker, and the conflict is simmering, Mr. Speaker. I'll be looking forward for them to get to work and deal with these issues. Mr. Speaker, the issue of lands, and I want to laud the President that for the first time, Nakuru County and City have a CS nominee, a full cabinet secretary nominee, Mr. Speaker. It has not happened. And for the first time, we are represented by Zach Njero on this domain and in this nomination, Mr. Speaker. We are hoping that we will deal with the lands issues. We will deal with every sub-county getting a land registry, Mr. Speaker. That is an issue we should push in this cabinet, Mr. Speaker. I am looking forward to the nominee for education, Mr. Speaker. Apart from CBC, we are dealing with teachers' issues, Mr. Speaker. The issue of TSC not working well with the Ministry of Education, having a push and pull, Mr. Speaker. The issue of hardship allowances that I tried to push for some areas, especially in Nakuru, in my area, which is a semi-arid area, Mr. Speaker. We want that reclassification done by the CS of Education, Mr. Speaker. But on the issue of the nominee, Penina Malonza, Mr. Speaker, we must look at the law as it is, Mr. Speaker. Article 152 of the Constitution does not stipulate the requirements of what a cabinet secretary should be, and I think it's the role of this country, of this House, Mr. Speaker, that we get, because we have done it for governors, we have done it for the president, we have even done it for MCAs, but we have not done it for cabinet secretaries. So to say that you don't like the way I look or how I behave or how I talk, Mr. Speaker, cannot be a qualification to disqualify this nominee, Mr. Speaker. So I'm looking forward to the amendment as it comes to this floor, has been promised by some of the members, Mr. Speaker, that we ensure that this list of CS nominees passes as it is, Mr. Speaker. But because of time, Mr. Speaker, the only other issue I will touch on, I'm looking for the CS Treasury now to deal with the issue of release of NGCDF, Mr. Speaker. We are here in this house, we are having issues. It's that term, children are in school, we have Form 4 sitting for exams, we have them at home, they are not even able to put a meal on the table, and yet they are home for school fees, Mr. Speaker. We will be looking forward for the CS Treasury to ensure the timely release of NGCDF for the last, for this financial year, Mr. Speaker. And because of the concern of members, Mr. Speaker, and having sat where you have sat, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to take more time. I want to support this list and give more members, and I hope that we can be magnanimous enough. Even if the time is 10 minutes, you don't have to take all of it. Let us take as few minutes as possible so that we give as many members to contribute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thanks a lot, the MP for Gilgil. That's very, very, very generous. The MP for Bomet East.
now I've been recognized and heard that I'm in this house. My people in Bomet have been complaining every weekend I go home. They normally ask me, people are talking, and what have you been doing? You go and sleep there, we see you in the TV, and you're not contributing anything. Thank you very much. And I think I've now learned the game. Regarding this, the motion in place, Mr. Speaker, regarding the approval and appointment of cabinet secretaries, the Attorney General and Secretary to the Cabinet, I would like to go straight to the point of contention, that is Madam Penina Malonza, whereby the President had included her in the cabinet list. I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, some of us have come from corporate sectors whereby some people have been working there and you never hear them talking. This lady was a deputy governor. And what we need to ask ourselves is, Kitui County, did it perform during our time or it failed? Those are the pertinent questions which we need to be asking ourselves. There are some people who are trying to talk too much, but when it comes to service delivery, it is very difficult for them to articulate issues or to deliver. And I think Penina Malonza should not be left to the lynch mob. I want to say we should include her in the list of these cabinet secretaries who have been passed. The president nominating her has gone a long way, because we know where the lady comes from was not supporting the Kenya Kwanza government. And I want to say the president did well by trying to diversify and trying to unite the Kenyan nation by even appointing people from the areas which was perceived to be opposition to the government. And I find it very difficult and to understand the opposition members when they just come and start trying to oppose one of their own. We are trying to help you. This is a lady which is coming from the area whereby it was supporting your side. And we want to do this to try and unite this nation by even trying to bring people from those areas which is perceived not to have supported us. So the argument, Mr. Speaker, I want to be protected from the people who are making noise from behind my back.
Order, honorable members, order, honorable Dwale.
Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, as I complete.
Yes, what's your point of order, honorable member?
Mr. Speaker, is the honorable member in order to stand before the House and allege that it's the opposition members who are fighting their own members, while the committee, the whole committee adopted that Honorable Malonza is not fit to serve. Is the honorable member in order to mislead this House? It was a unanimous decision of the committee. So, Mr. Speaker, I would encourage him to read more about the recommendations of the committee.
Thank you very much. You have been heard, and I want to tell you, it is the House to decide. We are going to decide this in this House. And by virtue of that committee, let me tell you, it is an extension of this House. And I want to say, I want to give a very good example, Mr. Speaker. Personally, I've been working in the aviation industry. And if I can bring to this House what I learned from that sector, the transport sector, Kenya Airways has been underperforming as compared to other carriers. And what we have seen is what the government of the then has been doing is trying to impose some, the so-called technocrats to come and manage or head our airline, of which they've never delivered. We need to emulate some other carriers or other countries which they've made their airlines to be very successful, and not try to import people and come and to come and lead our corporate sectors, and not changing anything and paying millions of money in terms of salaries. What I would like to say is, Malonza, Penina Malonza tried to express herself, but it looks very difficult, but that should not deter her from being given this position. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, let me say thank you very much. May God bless this House. Thank you.
MP for Lugari. MP for Lugari. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for affording me this opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, being my maiden speech, I expect 10 minutes. I want, first of all, to congratulate you, Mr. Speaker, for finding yourself on the Speaker's panel, and congratulate Senator Wetangula for being elected the Speaker of this House. I also want to take opportunity to congratulate my colleagues who are here with me for being voted in to be members of the 13th Parliament. I would like to congratulate my people of Lugari for giving me an opportunity to serve as their member of National Assembly. Equally, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate my party and the party leader, Raila Odinga, for staying the course of change, for staying the course of democracy, for ensuring that this country is reaping the fruits of devolution. Mr. Speaker, whereas we are here celebrating democracy, I come from a constituency that has been discriminated. In 2008, the then President Mwai Kibaki laid a foundation to tarmac a road, C42, that comes from Tarbo to Sekhendu. To date, no single point of a kilometer has been tarmacked. I come from a constituency, Mr. Speaker, that in 1992, the then President Moi gave people land together with the people of Manzini, but the people of Lugari are still staying as squatters, as that land has not been gazetted from the forest. That is how unfair this government has been to the people of Lugari. Mr. Speaker, looking at the list we have been provided with today of nominees, I first of all want to congratulate the committee. But I find fault in the following: that we have been provided with a list of nominees that goes contrary to the Constitution of Kenya. I cannot see a youth in that list. I cannot see a person with disability in that list. Mr. Speaker, if we become a house to rubber stamp things that we know constitutionally are wrong, history is going to charge us. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that list, and I'm looking at my fellow members of parliament of female gender, contributing here, supporting a name of a person who attempted to get canon knowledge of a woman without her consent, I cry. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that list, Mr. Speaker, as I look at that list, and I see people glorifying a nominee simply because she came from a humble background.
What's your point
How
of
many
order,
of these
Honorable?
people come from a humble background?
Order. This is the maiden speech of Honorable Nabi.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you,
and
Mr.
it shall be
Speaker.
heard in silence. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
I proceed, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Honorable members, order, please. Honorable member, could you take your seat? Proceed, Honorable Nabi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to comment on one Aisha Jumwa. Mr. Speaker, I've seen a copy of an affidavit of a poor woman, a poor Kenyan, whom the nominee grabbed the land, and here we are talking about, oh, she came from a humble background. What about that poor woman whose land has been taken? What do we do with that woman? Mr. Speaker, I'm pained today that this house is debating a list that has somebody with 35 cases. The question of integrity goes beyond being proven guilty or innocent. It is a question of conscience. It is a question of perception. Surely, what are we going to tell our children? That a person, when we had so many millions of Kenyans who didn't have cases, the best we could get is a person with 35 cases? I cry. I tell you that you voted for a person who is criminally conflicted. Mr. Speaker, that does not mean we don't have good people on that list. I support vehemently the nomination of one Murkomen, a legal mind, a man who understands what he really wants to do for this country, a man who demonstrated his vision of what the transport sector should be. That is what we want to see. I want to support when I see a lady like Wahome, somebody who can demonstrate what she's thinking about in terms of water. But can we say that of that one Malonza? My answer is no. If you cannot demonstrate the vision you have, then you do not know what you want to go and do. As a HR expert, I want to tell you this. The reason we have face-to-face interview is for you to tell us what you can do. If you can't demonstrate, you will not make other people do it. You don't know it. How will you make others do it? I want to urge my colleagues, a cabinet is beyond community. Because if we were to talk about our tribes, then I don't see a Tachoni there. Then I don't see an Ogiek there. It is about Kenya. So I'm urging our colleagues who are retreating to tribal cocoons to desist that. We are looking for a cabinet that will help the president deliver. All of us, on both sides, we agree that we want a working nation. We want a working country. We want an effective cabinet. So please, as we look at these names, we need to ask the question, if I looked at you in the eye, would you meet the Caesar's transpose? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, we will have the Honorable Mbadi, followed by the Honorable Faith of Nyandarua, and the MP, order, and the MP for Kiamba, and MP for Manyata, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important motion on approval of nominees to the Cabinet Secretary positions. Mr. Speaker, if there is any singular responsibility that has been bestowed onto this House, it is that of approving the cabinet. In other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, this responsibility is given to Senate. If you go to the United States of America, it is the Senate that is tasked with this responsibility. In Kenya, we decided in our own wisdom to give it to the House of Representatives. And therefore, we are expected and required to make decisions to carry out our tasks in a way that would respect the people of Kenya and in a way that represents their interests. Mr. Speaker, what is required of us as a House is to approve these members based on their suitability to hold these positions. If you look at the nominees, I want to agree that yes, there are some names in that list. Out of the 24, there are individuals you can pick out and say have the competence, have the capacity, have the professional competence and academic competence, including experience, that they would use to execute their functions. I would mention that the nominee for the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, has the capacity, if it's given opportunity, to deliver and perform the functions that are bestowed on that office. There are also other names I would mention. I would mention the name of Honorable Duale, everybody has been mentioning. We know the work ethics of Duale.
Yes,
he has experience
order,
as a former member.
What is the point of order, Chepkonga? Give Honorable Chepkonga the mic.
Yeah, please, don't.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I don't intend to oppose my very good friend, the Honorable Mbadi. He is speaking very wisely today. Except that, Mr. Speaker, we had a motion yesterday in which you ruled, and you know we are a house of rules, and there has not been a change. It was decided yesterday, and you authorized, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to debate for 5 hours up to 11 a.m. this morning. Mr. Speaker, it is now 11:01 adding to 02, Mr. Speaker. Since you've made a ruling and there has not been any motion of enlargement, would I be in order, Mr. Speaker, that you call the mover to reply?
Order, honorable members. I will allow the Honorable Mbadi to finish his submission, then I'll give you direction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have also mentioned that Honorable Duale, I think everybody has been speaking about how Duale has the work ethics. Duale has been majority leader for about 7 years. He has served even as assistant minister. We also, I agree that Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen is versatile. He may not have the experience in that ministry that he has been charged with, but he is versatile. I know he can adopt. There are others like Eliudo Wallo, people who have not worked in government, but through experience in terms of consultancy, he can get into that ministry and perform. Tuya, I can't overemphasize. Kithure Kindiki, misplaced, but intelligent enough, he can adjust. Speaker Muturi, I am sure, will deliver. But Mr. Speaker, looking at this cabinet in totality, I have my fears. We are approving, if we do approve, we are approving a cabinet that is not so competent. We are approving a cabinet that I think the mindset of the appointing authority was not on service delivery. This is not a cabinet that is going to bring economic revolution in this country. This is not a cabinet that is going to have Kenya take off from a middle-income economy. This is a cabinet that lacks competence, integrity in many aspects. So what was informing the appointment of these members to the cabinet? If you can have Aisha Juma tasked with the responsibility of reforming our civil service, which has challenges, I fear that is not something that is going to work. This is a cabinet that was informed by political expediency. The president has actually appointed 2027 campaign managers, regional campaign managers. The president is simply telling us that we give him a cabinet that is not going to function, because he's ready to run the entire government system, machinery, and structure from State House using advisors. Otherwise, we would not have a cabinet that we have today. The cabinet is deficient in terms of academic, in terms of professional competence, in terms of experience, in terms of integrity. Many people with cases. Look at the case of Davis Chirchir, Mr. Speaker. This is the same gentleman who was removed from office in 2015. Removed from office on matters of corruption. This gentleman, how many Kenyans, if you ask them today, would remember that he was holding the docket of energy? Very few, meaning he left no impact in that ministry. And then you are leaving a lady you have already appointed to the cabinet called Rebecca Miano, who has enough experience, expertise, knowledge, capacity to run the Ministry of Energy, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order from Chief Konga.
What is the point of order? It's just argument. Point of argument, wasting my time.
Mr. Speaker, you know, Honorable Mbadi knows that I know the law. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 83, as read together with Standing Order number 91, on the accuracy of your information. Mr. Speaker, would it be in order for Honorable Mbadi, who has been sitting in this house, he knows that Mr. Chirchir was never charged in any court of law. He was removed in a very capricious manner. He cannot quote any case here. He is just bringing some market talk from outside. Mr. Speaker, he is under an obligation to be accurate. If he thinks that somebody is corrupt, he should give us, in any event you had the government the last time, you should have charged him in a court of law. But you cannot just come and engage in a market talk here, in a serious house, Honorable Mbadi. For goodness sake, please, quote a case in which Honorable Chirchir has been convicted or has been charged with an offense.
Honorable Mbadi.
You know, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Chepkonga is lucky that Chepkut is no longer there. He would lose in the next election. Mr. Speaker, the threshold, Mr. Speaker, the threshold under Chapter 6 is higher than cases being in court and such like, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the threshold for approval in this House, we are not a court of law. In this House, we are approving you based on your capacity to hold office. Look at the lady Penina. She is being disapproved simply because she could not talk properly in the committee. And you are telling me that a name that has been brought here by none other than the president as having been mentioned in matters corruption, that person is as clean as cotton. Mr. Speaker, let us be serious. Even if, and I've never been in government except in 2008 to 2013 when I was in Nusumukati government. I have never been in government since that time, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, we have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House. These are not people who can run a government. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will oppose most of the names.
Your time is up. Honorable members, before we move on further, allow me to acknowledge some schools that are up in the gallery, in the public gallery. Serare School from Kajiado County, St. Peter's Clever Secondary School from Makwiny, Karaia Primary School from Kiambu County, Antenna School from Machakos County, Kihate Girls from Nyeri County, and Chebilati Mixed from Bometi County. On my behalf and on your behalf, I welcome the schools and the students to the House of Parliament. Now, honorable members, we had agreed yesterday that this was a time-bound motion, a special motion. We expanded the timing from the ordinary 3 hours to 5 hours, which are now spent, and I'll now invite the mover to reply. Thereafter, I'll give you direction on how we are going to vote. The mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And before I reply, Honorable Speaker, since I have about 15 minutes, I wanted to donate a few minutes. Honorable Speaker, one to the Honorable Kangogo, at least 2 minutes each. The Honorable Wangwe, 2 minutes. The Honorable Abdul Mandera South, 2 minutes. The Honorable Faith Gitao, 2 minutes. And Honorable Sigei, 2 minutes.
Can you repeat the names?
Honorable Kyunjuri, 2
Majority.
minutes.
Can you repeat the names for my record?
The Honorable Faith Gitao.
You started with Kangogo.
Yeah, Honorable Kangogo.
Wangwe.
Honorable Wangwe.
3.
Honorable Abdul Mandera South. Honorable Faith Gitao. Honorable Sigei. And Honorable Kyunjuri. Wangwe is in Azimio.
How many minutes are you donating to each one of them?
Say 1.5 each.
Okay.
1.5 each.
Start with Kangogo. You have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity first to thank the people of Marakwet East for giving me a third term. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I want to support all the nominees by the President. Mr. Speaker, looking at the nominees, you can see that all the regions are represented. The gender balance is addressed. And Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the President for making sure that even those parts of the country which didn't devote to Kenya Kwanza are included in his government. Mr. Speaker, I also want to join other colleagues, members of parliament who are here, who are in support of Penina Malonza. Mr. Speaker, I want to say all the nominees who are in that list are equal to their tasks. Mr. Speaker, I had some of our colleagues here who are accusing some of the nominees, especially Penina, and some of them even, they don't have the qualification the nominee has. Mr. Speaker, I want to support that we, as Kenya Kwanza, we support and empower women, Mr. Speaker. I want also to thank my Majority Leader for giving me these 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker, and also take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, because I had not spoken in this 13th Parliament, to congratulate you for your election as our Speaker. Thank you.
Wangwe. Wangwe is not there. The Honorable Abdul. Ichungo, you're out of order. Honorable Abdul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. First of all, I'll take you from the rest of most of the honorable members to vote for Honorable Malonza. I think it is not fair to subject her to a criteria which is not subjected to the rest of the nominees, and I think Honorable Malonza should be approved by this House as a nominee for tourism. Looking at the report and looking at especially the general and sector-specific questions that was asked to some of the nominees, I also noted Honorable Duale perhaps was asked one of the most awkward questions, whether he will be conflicted in performing his role as a CS defense in case of insurgency of Al-Shabaab. I don't know why that specific question was raised to Honorable Duale, which subjected him to trying to prove his Kenyanness that is Kenyan first before, and also a Somali by tribe. I think that was a very awkward question. And the question on paragraph 229 to Honorable Mutua, the nominee for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, was a good one, especially on the plight of Kenyan migrants and workers.
Time is up. Honorable Faith Gitau.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to offer my line of thoughts regarding the report as presented to this House by the Committee of Appointment. I want to congratulate this committee for professionalism portrayed during the vetting. Clearly, it could not have been done better. Well done, colleagues. I watched most of the vetting process, and I must say all nominees came out as pragmatists, very practical, very focused, and goal-oriented. They articulated very well. They are short.
Your time is up. Honorable Sigei. You have 1.5 minutes. Use your time well.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to first start by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to talk today. And secondly, I want to say I'm privileged to talk here in front of my school, Chebilat from Bomet. They are here in the house, and I think they will take the message home that Sigei talked in their presence. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to mention these two things. Number one, I want to thank the committee for a good job done. Number two, I want to say that this house is not the court of law, and hence we wait for whatever is going to be done in the court so that we can discuss these issues. For now, I am proposing we pass all these nominees. And thirdly, I want to express my sympathy to Penina Malonza. I am a father, and I was shocked the way that lady was harassed. I want to say, even the family, I don't think they slept. So I simply...
Order, Honorable Sigei. That is not a statement of fact. Honorable Sigei, that is not a statement of fact. Nobody was harassed. The Speaker chaired the committee. The fact that people didn't answer questions properly doesn't mean it was harassment. Injury, it is over for you, Honorable Sigei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you are aware, all of us, Mr. Speaker, are not yet settled, because at the end of the day, we don't have substantive ministers. We need ministers where we know they are fully in office, where we can present our problems. Already there are so many problems facing this country. Like right now, the issue of drought. You don't know where to go and address, because the president cannot be everywhere. The president alone cannot run this government. Mr. Speaker, I've been charged 17 times before I became a member of parliament, and all those cases, none of them could stand the test of time. Mr. Speaker, we cannot judge as members of parliament because we already judge out there. And we have to give people opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to be heard at any level, so that at least, Mr. Speaker, it is not about regimes that are going to judge us. If these people had been judged during the regime of Mwai Kibaki, then we can say there is a bit of fairness. Some of us have been taken through DCI 9 times, Mr. Speaker, left free, and even today none of our cases have ever been, we have never been charged, but 9 times dragged through the DCI offices. Mr. Speaker, it's not fair that members who are seated here, who knew how the regime that was there operated, can be sitting here.
Time up. The mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, let me just take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to thank all the members. The Honorable Wango is bowing, but he's lost his opportunity. To thank all the members of this House, Honorable Speaker, for their very good contributions, and listening to all the contributions by many members, it's clear that the House, to a large extent, does agree with the committee in terms of the recommendations made, especially on the approvals. And Honorable Speaker, I've also had numerous members speak on the rejection, the one rejection, and the reservations that were expressed by the minority in their minority report, Honorable Speaker. And maybe just to pick up from where the Honorable Kinjuri has left, Honorable Speaker, it is indeed true that people have been charged in this country with crimes that they have not committed. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, besides being charged, there are people, and we've all witnessed in the last few weeks, people who have lost their lives out of actions of omission or commission by the former regime, Honorable Speaker. And we know what kind of country we were living in under the previous regime, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I really want to implore on the House, as the Honorable Mwangi Kinjuri has said, that even himself, before he became minister, he had been charged numerous times. The Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Linturi...
I'll give you 2 minutes to wind up.
The Honorable Linturi, Honorable Speaker, did indicate that all the cases I stated yesterday that he has in court are civil cases. And the only criminal case that he had already been withdrawn, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I really want to ask the House to support the committee's report. As I said yesterday, Honorable Speaker, the committee expressed itself on Penina Malonza, but the decision, the ultimate decision, lies in this House. And Honorable Speaker, I really want to ask the House to make an informed decision based on the debate that has transpired here, Honorable Speaker, and the information that is already in your hands in the report. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply and ask all members to, in a very bipartisan manner, support all these nominees to allow His Excellency the President to go ahead, swear them in, and form government so that they may start the work of serving the people of Kenya. We all went through a vigorous campaign, and our constituents are waiting for service from government. And we are all, I'm sure we're all going to be ready to hold to account all these cabinet secretaries once they are sworn in. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to reply.
Honorable members, before I put the question, we will vote on this motion as follows. Once I put the question, you will vote on a voice vote on numbers, nominees numbers 1 to 21 as one vote. You will then vote on nominee Roman 2, the appointed Attorney General. You will then vote on the nominee Roman 3, Mercy Wanjau, Secretary of the Cabinet. Then you will vote on the rejection of Penina Malonza, Roman 4. Depending on how you vote on Roman 4, I'll then give you further direction. I now put the question. So I'll read up to 21, ask you to vote. Then we go to Roman 2, you vote. Roman 3, you vote. Then Roman 4, you vote. Honorable members, I now put the question. Can the members at the bar take their seats? Members, take your seats quickly. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. We'll now put the question. Before I put the question, allow me, members, to also acknowledge the presence in the public gallery of Precious Blood Girls High School from Kiambu County. We all welcome them to the House of Parliament. Honorable members, I now put the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Committee on Appointments in its first report on the vetting of nominees for approval as Cabinet Secretaries, the Secretary of the Cabinet and the Attorney General laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, October 24th, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 152.2, 154.2a, and 156.2 of the Constitution, and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House, 1, approves the appointment of the following persons as Cabinet Secretaries. The Honorable Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, EGH, Office of the Prime Cabinet Minister. The Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior and National Administration. The Honorable Professor Njuguna Ndungu, CBS, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning. The Honorable Alice Mudhoni Wahome, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. The Honorable Rebecca Miano, MBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of East African Community, the ASALs and Regional Development. The Honorable Alfred Nganga Mutua, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora. The Honorable Aisha Juma Karisa Katana, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action. The Honorable Moses K. Kuria, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Trade, Investment and Industry. The Honorable Rosalinda Soipan Tuya, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Environment and Forestry. The Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Roads, Transport and Public Works. Mr. Sakaria Mwangi Njeru, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Ms. Susan Nahumicha Wafula, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Health. The Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Mr. Eliud Okech Owalo, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy. The Honorable Ezekiel Machogu Ombaki, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education. Mr. Davis Kimutai Chirchir, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Energy and Petroleum. The Honorable Ababu Namwamba, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts. Mr. Simon Kiprono Chelugui, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSME Development. The Honorable Salim Mvuria, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining, the Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. The Honorable Florence Chepngetich Kosgei Bore, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say no? No. The ayes have it. The next is to call upon you on that the House approves the appointment of the Honorable Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi, EGH, as the Attorney General. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The next is to call upon you. Can the members at the bar take their seats? Order, honorable members. The next is call upon the House that the House approves the appointment of Ms. Mercy Kiiru Wanjau. Order. The House approves the appointment of Ms. Mercy Kiiru Wanjau, CBS, as the Secretary of the Cabinet. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. And the last vote, order, honorable members. The last vote is that the House rejects the appointment of the Honorable Penina Malonza OGW as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it. Now, order, honorable members, the upshot of that vote, honorable members, is that you have approved the appointment of all the nominees up to Mercy Kiiru Wanjau. You have negatived the rejection of Penina Malonza. This means Penina Malonza is now in purgatory. She's neither in heaven nor in hell. She's in purgatory. Now, the next move on Penina Malonza, I have received and approved a motion by the Honorable Irene Kasalu. She wants to move the House now to decide whether to shift Penina Malonza from purgatory to hell or to heaven. And I will now give her an opportunity to move the motion. Once she moves the motion, we have a seconder. Order, honorable members, order. Once she moves the motion, we have a seconder. Once we have a seconder, I want to encourage the House that you have overventilated on this matter. You allow the chair to put the question after proposing the question. Is the Honorable Kasalu in the House? I invite you now to move your motion in not more than 10 minutes. And your seconder will be allotted 5 minutes. You can go ahead, the Honorable Kasalu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And in the view of the decision of the House today, with respect to the motion on the approval of appointment of Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW, as a Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, and the requirement for...
Sorry, Honorable Kasalu, I think we have jumped the gun. First, give notice of your motion. Thereafter, I'll then allow you to move it. Then it gets seconded and we move as guided. So first give notice of the motion.
So I just read that to you.
Just start by saying I give notice of the following motion, then read the motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I give notice of motion for the approval of appointment of Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW, as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Kasalu, now you may proceed to...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And in the view of the House decision today, with respect to the motion on the approval of appointment of Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW...
Honorable Kasalu, when you move your motion, you start by saying, I move the following motion.
Thank you, Honorable
Then you
Speaker.
read the motion as it is, then go on to elucidate what you want to say.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand guided. And Honorable Speaker, I move the following motion, that in the view of the decision of the House today,
with respect to the motion on the approval of appointment of Honorable Penina Malonza, OGW, as a Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, and the requirement for an unequivocal decision of the National Assembly on such matters, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Act of 2011, that this House approves the appointment of the Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW, as the Cabinet Secretary for the Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Honorable Speaker, allow me to say that I want to thank the people of Kitui for electing me for the second time. And I must say that I had a worthy opponent by the name Hon. Penina Malonza. And having her as my opponent, I can only say good words about her. Hon. Penina Malonza is a brave woman. This lady decided to vie for women in Kitui County on a UDA ticket, despite the area being a wiper zone. And the people of Kitui actually voted for her with a lot of votes. And I think she's the only candidate for Mukambani who vied on UNDA who got the highest votes. Hon. Penina Malonza is a woman of integrity. She has not been charged in any court in this country on any issue. Hon. Penina Malonza is well schooled, and she's an appointment of what many girls on this country would aspire to get academically. Hon. Penina Malonza has a working history. She was the last deputy governor for Kitui County when Malombe was the governor. And it's during this time the duo delivered for the people of Kitui, and a lot of development were done in Kitui County. Hon. Penina Malonza is being looked at by all the people of Kitui County. I'm sure, on Speaker, you have heard of the many bandits attacking the Kitui County. And on Penina Malonza comes from one of those areas that is Mother Ward. And the people of Kitui are looking upon her. Once this nomination has gone through and she's has gone through and she become the CS for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, that she's be able to sort the issue of the bandit attack. So with these few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to call upon Dr. Pukose of Debes constituency to second the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second first before the point of order.
Honorable member, Dr. Bukosa, take your seat. What is out of order, honorable member? Give him the mic, please. Give the honorable member the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And first, I'm not talking about the rejection of Honorable Penina. We support her. But Honorable Irene Kasalu talked about that Honorable Penina will sort out the issue of bandit attacks
Honorable
in Kitui.
member, you are out of order.
So
take
the
your
point
seat.
we are talking about.
Take your seat, honorable member. You are grossly out of order. Honorable Dr. Bukose, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second
Honorable
the motion.
member, for order, Honorable Bukose, for avoidance of any such incidents in future, honorable members, especially for our new colleagues, you stand on a point of order when a colleague is on the floor, on the feet, and has breached some standing order. Number two, I and the panelists of the Speaker's chair will, going forward, demand to know which standing order has been breached when you say point of order, so that you don't come under the guise of point of order and embark on a totally different misadventure. Thirdly, when you want to raise a point of order, the member against whom you are raising must still be on the floor. Once the member has left the floor, you cannot raise a point of order about what they were saying. Honorable Bukose, you have 5 minutes or less.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second the motion by Honorable Irene Kasalu on that this House approves the appointment of Penina Malonza as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. Honorable Speaker, today morning we were having a cup of tea and discussing with Honorable Nzengu, member for Mwingi North, among others. And at times you look at the Cabinet Secretary is supposed to be in charge of policy, not technical. And I asked the member, if you are bitten by a snake, where do you report? It's supposed to be you report to the police station, get a P3 form, then go and see a doctor. Once you've seen a doctor, the doctor feels the extent of your injuries. But I know many of you life and national heritage. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I beg to propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Penina Malonza OGW as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. I will now put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Articles 152(2) of the Constitution and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Penina Malonza OGW as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Will now, honorable members, go back to the motion of the member for Lurambi, the Honorable Titus Hamala. You had moved your motion. Now we want your seconder. Who is your seconder?
In fact,
Mudenyo.
alikuwa amemove, eh?
Okay. Rachel.
Order number 10, motion, review of teacher deployment policy.
Honorable members, we shall proceed to the business of the House. And before I give the Honorable Wundo to second the motion, I wish to welcome a delegation from the German Parliament, the Honorable His Excellency Sebastian Groth, Ambassador, the Honorable Herman Freber, the Honorable Suzanne Mittag, the Honorable Rita Hagel-Kell, the Honorable Arthur Unama, the Honorable Albert Stegemann, the Honorable Karl Beer, the Honorable Ingo Bocke, the Honorable Peter Felser, and the Honorable Ina Latendorf. Their delegation are in the country on the invitation of by Honorable Joshua Kandie, the MP for Baringo Central Constituency. We wish to invite them to the House and wish them good deliberations and stay in the country. You are welcome. Honorable members, I wish to give this chance to the Honorable Wundo to second the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And on the onset, let me sincerely congratulate you as my neighbor for having been appointed to sit in the Speaker's panel and preside over this session. Honorable Speaker, let me also take this opportunity before I formally second the motion to thank the people of Funyula constituency for giving me a chance to serve them as their Member of Parliament for a second term, 2022-2027. It is a great honor to serve them for the second term, and that's a testimony for the good work we did, I and my team, in the first term. Second, let me also take this opportunity to sincerely thank the people of Busia for electing Dr. Paul Nyong'o Otuoma as the governor of Busia. And in totality now, we are able to showcase the dominance of ODM in Busia County as we forge the next level. Honorable Speaker, as we stand here today, Honorable Titus Hamala, Bishop, has presented to us a matter that has been a topic of extensive debate in our constituencies, in our villages, and in this country. And that debate has been the impact, the policy impact of the localization, i.e. to mean moving teachers from their local areas to go and teach and offer services to the various parts of this country. Granted that teachers are public servants, and once you get employed as a public servant, you are duty-bound to serve this country in any station and in any capacity as long as it's within some basic human rights and basic tenets of good governance. Honorable Speaker, teachers are extremely important members of this society. They shape attitudes, they shape society, they make us who we are here. None of us will be here if it wasn't for the immense impact of the teacher that brought us where we are here. We also appreciate that Kenya is one country whereby we must have extensive exchange of ideas, culture, so that we build one unequivocal or one undivided country called Kenya. I'm privileged to have gone to Bijuanga Primary School. I'm privileged to have come to Starehe Boys Center and School. And that sojourn from the village to Nairobi opened up my mind to appreciate and understand the entire culture of the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, we must also appreciate and understand that teachers offer labor services. And they're offering their labor services are guided by the rules and regulations of ILO and other labor institutions. Consequently, even as provided in the Constitution, any decision that affects somebody, that person who is likely to be affected, ought to have a direct impact, a direct contribution to that such kind of momentous decision. Honorable Speaker, in the 5 years as an MP, many teachers came to complain to me, Honorable Speaker, I have a sick mother, I have a sick spouse, I have small children who attend school here, I've been transferred to faraway lands. I do not know what I'm going to do. Honorable Speaker, many have also come to me, especially lady teachers, asking me, Mheshimiwa, I have been transferred very away from my husband, but the way I look at my husband, this could be the end of the marriage. Honorable Speaker, and that's why it is extremely important, Honorable Speaker, that the policy of delocalization, however noble, however well-intentioned it is, requires a further rethink, a further review. And that's why, as we stand here today, we might not necessarily oppose in totality, but we call upon the Teacher Service Commission and the Education CS to literally look at the matter in a holistic manner, come up with very clear criteria. As Bishop Hamala said yesterday, it's untenable, it's unacceptable, and it's manifestly unfair to transfer a 55-year-old man from his place of board, where he has lived all those years, take him far away land, where he has nobody there, he has no friends there, he cannot learn new tricks, he cannot learn new ideas. You can't teach an old dog any new ideas. Forcing the man at such an age to stand out scrapping sufrias to cook food for himself is sincerely demeaning that kind of a man. Taking away a man from the hot climate of Ugenya, take him to Limuru to go live and sleep alone in the deliberating cold. Honestly speaking, Honorable Speaker, you are not being unfair to that particular man or that particular woman teacher. That's why, as we stand here today, it is important that TSC, the ministry, sits down and sets very clear criteria. Where I sit, Honorable Speaker, if they should be allowed to explore this country, a new graduate should be allowed to know other places, learn other cultures. A new graduate should be able to interact and also learn something new, just like they do in the police services and in the civil services. As you tend towards retirement, you are taken closer home where you can be taken care of. You are taken closer home where you can learn how to live with the people. Because once you retire, you require those villagers, you require those relatives, you require those high school friends. So in that score, Honorable Speaker, I support and I hope the new CS, having been a DC in Busia, understands the administrative issues, will address this particular issue. I stand to second. Thank you.
Honorable members, I wish to propose the motion that aware that education is a key enabler of national development and realization of Kenya's Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, appreciating the invaluable role that teachers play in actualizing the national goals of education, noting that a conducive working environment for teachers enhances performance, recalling that the localization of teachers commenced in 2018 by the TSC immensely disrupted teachers' lives, lowered teacher morale, and caused untold trauma to many teachers countrywide, concerned that the exercise was not supported with a clear policy framework and was initiated without the participation of teachers or their unions, contrary to Articles 118 and 132 of the Constitution on public participation and involvement of the people in the process of policy making, cognizant of the fact that delocalization of teachers is inconsistent with the UNESCO teacher deployment practice, which treats education as a culture process conducted within a people's cultural context at the local level. This House resolves that the Teacher Service Commission immediately reverses the ongoing delocalization of teachers and initiates a comprehensive review of the teacher deployment policy with the involvement of the teachers in order to make the policy consistent with the ILO and UNESCO laws and practices on teacher management and deployment. The first person to have a bite on the cherry on this motion would be the Honorable John Gitonga of Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support this motion. First, I would like to say and congratulate the member, Honorable Titus Hamala, MP, for coming up with this motion at the right time, especially when we are constituting a new government. Honorable Speaker, we are aware that we have just passed the whole list of CSs. Among them is the CS for education. I would like to say that myself, and I always tell everybody that I'm a product of teachers. If it were not for teachers, Gitonga Mukunji would not be here in this house today. I'm also a son-in-law to teachers. And, Honorable Speaker, this issue of transfer of teachers is a controversial issue. Whenever we agree that the ministry, the TSC, can take the teacher to any part of this country, regardless of the pain that that family will go through, it is a sad state. I would like to say that it is important we put in policy that is going to guide the issue of delocalization of teachers. There should be a comprehensive consultation, public participation, and inclusion when it comes to the issue of delocalization of teachers. I have had myself, in my few months of being an MP, a lot of phone calls from teachers in my constituency requesting me they would like a transfer back to their constituency of birth, where their family is. Honorable Speaker, that means that this process of delocalization of teachers has been misused. We have had even people who fall out with principals being transferred as a way of punishing them. Honorable Speaker, we have to put it right for the sake of our teachers. We have in mind that even the payment in terms of hardship allowances for our lovely teachers that are holding our children and the children of this country, Honorable Speaker, they are paid peanuts. This assembly should stand firm on protecting and ensuring that our teachers feel they have an assembly that thinks of them. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying this having in mind the crisis we have of shortage of teachers. Areas like Northeastern, Honorable Speaker, and many areas of this country suffer from lack of teachers in some schools. It is the high point the government tries to improve this profession. It is a high time we hire more teachers, and I'm happy, Honorable Speaker, that the government and the President announced a while back that in January is going to do a serious recruitment of new teachers so that we can have our institutions having enough teachers to teach them. The secondary schools, especially the day secondary schools, and Honorable Speaker, I believe, and in my own opinion, that the future of education in this country, especially secondary schools, lies in our day schools. Those are schools that mostly you'll find no school with more than 10 teachers. And then you find some of the teachers are teaching more than 10 subjects because of the fact that there are very few. Honorable Speaker, I would like to have this motion, and while we are constituting this policy, we should have a comprehensive look at the staffing of our schools so that we can have everybody, anybody who takes a kid to school, being happy that there are teachers that are going to teach them and ensure that they are okay. Honorable Speaker, while we are talking about the localization of teachers, we need to have a consideration and ensure that when a teacher is transferred, if he is not comfortable with that, he should have a good channel to be able to say no. And he should have a chance to be heard. So I would like to contribute and say I support this motion. And Honorable Speaker, I'll continue contributing to ensure our schools are well equipped, our teachers are happy, so that we continue having a country that is going to have people who are going to school. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done, thank you. This chance now goes to the Honorable Mugambi Rindikiri of Buuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this motion by Honorable Titus Kamala. I think it has come the right time, Mr. Speaker. But before I do that, I want to congratulate you, Speaker, for your elevation to the Speaker's panel. And I know you fit, and I know you perform. Mr. Speaker, this issue of delocalization is a very emotive to our teachers, the people that we value very much. Mr. Speaker, I remember the first time delocalization came, it came and was seen as a disciplinary action by TSC. Because in my constituency body, the people who were targeted were the teacher leaders, the ones who were members of NAT, the ones who were members of KEMSHA, and those are the ones that were transferred. We did not view it as part of the TSC business of doing things, and from that perspective, I strongly feel that we need a policy. Mr. Speaker, TSC has become headquarters, TSC headquarters has become an animal by itself. When everybody is talking about delocalization of services to the basic units, TSC headquarters has taken over recruitment process, and promotion process of our teachers. And everything is now being controlled from TSC headquarters. Meaning, this institution is being run without consultation. Mr. Speaker, for the last 4 years, hiring of teachers, the only thing that the county education, the TSC directors will do, together with DCC, is only to recommend. They can only recommend hiring, they can only recommend promotions, and everything is sent to the headquarters. And this is where now we are seeing, you find they will come now and transfer teachers. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, for the last 5 years, I've been in this parliament the last 5 years, there is no single senior teacher who has been promoted. No single senior teacher has been promoted. But we saw an influx of end teachers from other counties being given opportunity to serve as end teachers without even going through the process of deputy head teacher. To me, and to my colleagues here, TSC is an animal which is not serving the interest of the teaching profession in this country. And we must condemn their actions. Mr. Speaker, I want to put it on record that my constituency worry, I have so many end teachers who have never been promoted, and I don't see the end of the light of the tunnel as long as the animal sitting at the headquarters is there. Something must be done. Mr. Speaker, if there is no policy, I agree. When I was recruited, I was told, when I finished university, I was told, I can serve in any part of the country. TSC, they have said you can. But you have no policy to determine. If you tell me I'm going to serve as an end teacher for 10 years in this school, then why do you delocalize me after 3 years? Mr. Speaker, we really need to be serious with education in this country. And the TSC is always in conflict with the ministry. It has assumed powers that it can do things without public participation. And this has happened particularly the current secretary of TSC, Madam Mrs. Macharia, operating alone in an ivory tower up there. They don't come to the counties, they don't come to schools. We have so many cases of non-performing teachers. And the TSC does not come to find out exactly what is happening. Instead, they'll transfer the teacher to Kabani from Meru, the coldest part of this country. Mr. Speaker, I think it's the high time that we seek education in this country seriously. Very seriously. We need an interactive opportunity between our teachers and our children. I have nothing against somebody coming from Northeastern to come and teach in our schools. But you can't have all the teachers from one place in my local school. How are these people going to interact with the children? Mr. Speaker, if you study the history of education in Finland, you will find a very serious feeding program which is blended by teaching professionals. Mr. Speaker, there are so many teachers who have done degrees. There are many teachers in primary schools who have done masters, and some of them are pursuing PhD. Ironically, TSC seems to be dead on that. They are dumb on that. Surely, you put a lot of initiative and nobody recognizes that. The only thing when you complain, you are transferred to Northeastern. You are transferred to Samburu. You are transferred to Turkana. Yet you are asking to be given an opportunity as somebody who has upgraded himself or herself. Mr. Speaker, it's the high time that we look at the entire structure of TSC, because the government has a responsibility. They have become an animal and they need to be shaped to conform to the requirement of our basic child, because that's the reason why the school is there. Let's not transfer teachers for the sake of discipline, for the sake of being seen to be moving teachers. There must be a very serious lesson. I sympathize and empathize with a 59-year-old man who was transferred from Kitui to a school in my constituency called Kirimara, the coldest part in Kenya. That man, I had to go and plead with the director of TSC for him to be taken back to where he came from. It's not fair to separate families in a long distance. There are no expenses that are paid for these guys when they are localized. It is not fair at all. Let's have a policy that is going to guide the transfer, promotion, hiring of teachers in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much. Honorable members, if you look at your order paper for today, you realize that there is a proposed amendment to this motion under Standing Order number 54. And I wish to give the member for Chepalungu, the Honorable Victor Koech, to move his amendment. I would request him to make it short, and I hope he already has a seconder in tow so that this process moves, so that we are able to debate the motion as amended, if we are minded to amend it. The Honorable Victor Koech.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I intend to move an amendment to this particular motion by the Honorable Member, Honorable Titus. Motion on review of teacher policy, or on teacher deployment policy. I wish to move the following amendment, that now the motion be amended by rearranging the resolution of the motion as follows. This House resolves that the Teacher Service Commission, 1, immediately reverses the ongoing delocalization of teachers, and 2, initiates a comprehensive review of teacher deployment policy with the involvement of teachers in order to make the policy consistent with the International Labour Organization, ILO, and UNESCO laws and practices on teacher management and deployment, and therefore inserting the following new subparagraph: review the teachers' recruitment policy with the view of devolving it to the zonal level as the recruitment level. Mr. Speaker, I would wish to make few recommendations about the same. I am freshly from a meeting with my local teachers from the different aids, that's the capture, and the NAT. And to point by a few, Mr. Speaker, their concern is what we are representing today here at the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, you notice that initially, before 2010, that is the promulgation of the new constitution, TSC were given the independence as an independent commission. Mr. Speaker, this particular independence resulted in the TSC acting in total disregard of the well-being of the teachers. Mr. Speaker, this particular independence gave the CEO an image and appears to be a smaller goddess. Mr. Speaker, this particular independence actually made the TSC.
Honorable Koech, you're doing well, but would you move your amendment first? Because you're already debating it. Would you just move the amendment first?
I stand guided, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, just move the amendment and then ask your second to second, so that then we debate the motion together.
Thank you. I stand guided. Mr. Speaker, I therefore would wish to move the above amendments, and I wish to invite the Honorable Member for Nandi, the Honorable Cynthia Muge, to second. Thank you.
The Honorable Muge, Cynthia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Take this opportunity to second the amendment brought by Honorable Victor Koech on the motion tabled on the floor of this House by Honorable Titus Kamala. Honorable Speaker, like he has stated, that particular amendment is important to this motion, Honorable Speaker, so that the policy is looked at holistically and we are able to take back the issues that has been entrenched into the TSC. Honorable Speaker, if you remember very well, Nancy Macharia, when people were looking and talking about devolution and devolving functions and money to the smallest units, she was busy recentralizing the recruitment of teachers. Honorable Speaker, it's not only unfair, but it also doesn't serve this country. Those teachers that we're talking about are people who actually carry the aspirations of this country. They're the people who actually deal with our children each and every day. If you force them, Honorable Speaker, and you place them in places that they cannot survive using decentralization and all those kind of things, Honorable Speaker, it is not going to work. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the amendment and I also support the whole motion altogether. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Remember, I'm assuming that all of us have the amendment because you can access it. It is in today's order paper. And if you were here when I proposed the motion, I read it in total. I would now like to propose that the House adopts the amendment as moved by the Honorable Victor Koech. If that's a mood of the House, I put the question that the motion by the Honorable Hamala be amended as proposed by the Honorable Victor Koech. Will, as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. And will, as many of contrary opinion say nay? Thank you so much. The amendment is carried. And members, now the motion will be debated plus the amendment. And if I may just then make it clear to you now what we'll be debating, I'll take the liberty to read the motion, the whole motion afresh. And I request you to now note the new motion so that when we debate the new motion. That aware that education is a key enabler of the national development and realization of Kenya's Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, appreciating the invaluable role that teachers play in actualizing the national goals of education, noting that a conducive working environment for teachers enhances performance, recalling that the localization of teachers commenced in 2018 by the TSC immensely disrupted teachers' lives, lowered teacher morale, and caused untold trauma to many teachers countrywide. Concerned that the exercise was not supported with a clear policy framework and was initiated without the participation of teachers or their unions, contrary to Articles 118 and 132 of the Constitution on public participation and involvement of the people in the process of policy making, cognizant of the fact that the localization of teachers is inconsistent with the UNESCO teacher development practice, which treats education as a culture process conducted within a people's cultural context at the local level, this House resolves that the TSC, 1, immediately reverses the ongoing localization of teachers, 2, initiates a comprehensive review of the teacher development policy with the involvement of the teachers in order to make the policy consistent with the ILO and the UNESCO laws and practices on teacher management and deployment. And 3, reviews the teacher recruitment policy with a view to devolving it to zonal levels as the point of improvement. Thank you, members. And now the first chance on the motion as amended would go to the Honorable Charo Kazungu, if he's in the House.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate the men and women who have been approved here today, this morning, to serve in the cabinet. More particularly, I want to congratulate Honorable Aisha Jungwa, who comes from my own Kilifi County. She has demonstrated that if you work hard in this country, then the sky is the lower limit. She has come from a very adversarial background, but the good thing is that she has made it, and now she's serving in one of the highest offices in this country. She is an inspiration to a lot of girls from Kilifi County, and I know many are going to learn from her. Now, if I come to the motion, I want to say I support this motion on delocalization. It is very true that many teachers have suffered because they have been taken to far-flung areas without their consent. I come from Kilifi County, and I know of teachers who used to teach in Ganze, but they were taken to far-flung areas like Tana River, to Lamu, and Kwale. These teachers had very young families, but they had to leave them behind because TSC will not listen to them. I know of a teacher in Ganze who was transferred or who was delocalized to Tana River. This teacher was sickly. He was suffering from diabetes and high blood pressure. He did his best to talk to TSC to cancel the transfer, but TSC wouldn't listen. I'm sorry to say in this house that we lost the life of this teacher. It is a very sad situation, and I want to say that TSC did not give this delocalization issue a lot of thought. It was done haphazardly, and it has broken so many marriages. It has affected so many teachers. So I support the motion by Honorable Hamala and also the amendment by Honorable Victor from Chepalungu. I think TSC needs to reverse most of these transfers that they have done, especially for those who are willing. Mr. Speaker, I am married to a teacher myself. And my wife has served in the same job grade for many years. But she has been refusing to apply for promotion because she knows the moment she's promoted, she will be delocalized. She will have to leave her family, which is still very young, to go and serve in far-flung areas. But this is not the cry of my wife alone. I think this is the cry of many teachers in this country. They have to serve in the same areas because they know once they start looking for transfers, they'll be taken to areas where they don't wish to serve in. Another issue that has been affecting teachers in Ganze, especially, Ganze is a hardship area, and teachers have been getting hardship allowances. Though it is not enough, but we can say at least in Ganze, they are getting these allowances. But it has been a cry of other civil servants. There are those civil servants who serve in the Ministry of Education, but they're not teachers. They are serving in these same hardship areas, but they're not getting hardship. Only teachers are getting hardship allowance. So I've been told, I've talked to a lot of these civil servants, and it has been their prayer that when the teachers are getting hardship allowances, let the other staff who are working in the Ministry of Education also to get the hardship allowance. And this should also apply to other civil servants that are working in these hardship areas, including the police. Mr. Speaker, the issue of TSC not being responsive to the issue of teachers, I think it is open knowledge. Everyone knows about it, especially those who have been in the teaching profession. It is high time now this TSC is restructured to be accommodative and to listen to the plight of many of the teachers. Teaching is a noble profession, and we know we are here. All of us we are here because we are product of teachers. But teachers have been suffering, and the employer has not been listening to their cries. It is hoped that this House is going to come with a good policy, with a clear policy that is going to make TSC look into the plight of teachers and serve them at their best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according this opportunity, and I donate the rest of my time to the House. Thank you.
Honourable Member, this chance now goes to the Honourable Malim Farah.
Thank you. Next time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this motion on the entire issue of education speaks very much to the hearts of people from pastoral nomadic areas in this country. Mr. Speaker, if I take you back a little bit in history, education was not provided by the colonial government. Education was provided by the missionaries, provided by the missionaries. And because we had stuck to our own faiths, which we've had, I think by then, for more than 1,000 years, because they could not preach their faiths in our own backyards, they abandoned our places and they never brought us education. The first secondary school in Northeastern Province was put up in 1968. That is when they did the O levels. There was no secondary school in the whole of the North when we got independence. We had a similar situation in Marsabit. We had a similar situation in Isiolo, in lots of other places. Fortunate for us, those who were in Isiolo, we had Meru within a certain proximity. And I remember most of the teachers who used to come and teach in our schools were Merus those days. And Pokomos from the Coast Province, Tana River. Mr. Speaker, there has to be a policy in this country that is differential, is affirmative action, is able to bring up to speed with the rest of the countries the areas that were traditionally, historically marginalized. We never got that. The subsequent independent Kenyan government, with Prime Minister Jomo Kenyatta at the helm those days, concentrated on high potential areas to provide education to. The last 10 years, slightly less than 10 years, we had something that can only be equated to a genocide of the mind. Genocide or ethnocide is not just the act of killing somebody and cleansing them. When you subject them also to certain other inhuman activities and cultures, then of course that is a form of genocide. The TSC, because of one incident of lawlessness that happened in our region, withdrew in one sweep 5,000 teachers from those areas. Today, there are schools that are only have one teacher and there are 8 classrooms. 8 classes, standard 1 to standard 8, with only one teacher who acts as a headmaster, as well as a teacher who's supposed to teach the rest of them. Because these teachers did not run away for their own security, they were withdrawn by the TSC. You deny people knowledge, you confine them or consign them to a permanent underclass. And that has been the intention of TSC as constituted now. And then you'll come and find a student who has got up to Form 4 and who has never seen a biology teacher, has never seen a chemistry teacher, has never seen a physics teacher, is supposed to do a national examination and compete with students in Alliance High School, Mangu, and all these other schools who have got teachers who only teach twice or 3 times in a week, because there's an over-concentration of teachers here. Then you tell them to compete also in opportunities in teacher service, in teacher training colleges. The lady who was a minister, Amina Mohammed, who incidentally understands our conditions, lowered that figure that time and said C- students can go into teacher training colleges and be trained as teachers. Nancy Macharia and TSC came out there and decided to go to court, saying that you're going to compromise on the academic excellence. So you cannot admit. So 3,000 young men and women who were trained as teachers, Mr. Speaker, were withdrawn from those colleges and could not be absorbed by the Teacher Service Commission. And other teachers from other regions could not come and teach in our place because she says there's insecurity in that place. Mr. Speaker, I am somebody who grew up soon after independence. And I know what discrimination is. I know what nepotism is. Because I remember in 1978, 38 A-level streams were approved by the Ministry of Education. And 34 of them were coming from one region. The rest of the country only boasted 4. We need to have a country that's united. We need to have a country where every Kenyan feels proud being Kenyan and understands and does not have any hard feelings because a section, under the leadership of a section, then nepotism, tribalism, ethnicity, regionalism was exercised on him or her. When I see this one, first time my inclination, gut feeling was opposed to this motion. Because then it's going to take the few we have back at home. The majority of the teachers who taught us, who are still teaching in schools in the north and pastoral nomadic areas, do not come from those areas. But then I realized we already have a situation in which all those teachers have been removed. They might as well remove the balance that's there, and we begin looking for a way to cure that problem. For a way to cure that problem. We can then even recruit and train teachers. We can do everything we have to do. We can do what we have to do to be able to bring our children to have education. So I will support this motion. But let me tell you one thing. Delocalization properly exercised is good for this country because it unites the country. It takes, like I told you, my early teachers were Merus and Pokomos. The first man who was teaching us in Garissa in the 60s was called Zakaria Marete. I'm inclined to say that for him as a sign of respect. We can't do that because of my faith, but he will always remain in our own hearts and minds as somebody who. The way to unite this country is to inculcate in the minds and the hearts of Kenyans at that young age that they belong to one identity. I went to a national school myself, and I remember how it was like. I relate to everybody who was with me in that school right now. Many of them have passed on since. Many of them are living as brothers and sisters. Brothers. It was a boys' school. So it's important and very good for us to integrate the country. But at the rate things are being done right now by the Teacher Service Commission, a new policy has got to be found to see how everybody has got to benefit from the independence we have had now for 60 plus years. In countries where even slavery was exercised, like the US, they have something called affirmative action through quota systems. I did pass a motion myself of affirmative action through quota systems in this parliament in 1993. And one institution that immediately implemented it was the teacher was the Kenya Medical Training College. Mr. Speaker, I hope I still have time. And I'll give you one thing. You cannot say equal opportunity, equal merit when there's no equal opportunity in education. Mr. Speaker, for the benefit of members of parliament much younger than me, and who are not in the 7th parliament, I was one of the youngest those days in the 7th parliament. The motion got the support of both sides of the country, of the aisle, the divide. And at that time, I was in the opposition. The only member of parliament from the north who was in the opposition. But I got support from both sides. Very, very difficult task those days for an opposition member of parliament's motion to be supported by the government side. But everybody's heart was felt when I told them, this year we admitted only one student from the schools in Northeastern Province into our national universities here.
Your time is up.
For all days' sake and for being a member of the panel, give me a few minutes, 5 more minutes, please. It happens. Let me tell you the practice.
Honourable member, you won't tell me the practice. I'll give you 1 more minute to wind up. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I remember doing this myself, but anyway, if I...
No, we'll give you 1 more minute, Honourable member, to wind up. Honourable Malim.
I'll take you for some lessons on some of these things when we get time.
I won't be taught by you.
Thank you.
Remember, I won't be taught by you. We will use a minute and wind up.
Thank you. What I'm trying to tell you, a child who had C- went to medical training college to do pharmacy those days. In the first year, the then director of medical service told me, I will implement this thing only for once, but if they do poorly, I'm going to change. 10 of the 11 top students in that class were students who had low marks, but then became the top in the pharmacy class. Because they got the opportunity. They never had the opportunity. The students are bright, brilliant, but when they don't have the opportunity, you cannot make them compete with students who are spoon-fed in education. So let us pass this motion. I'm inclined to say I pass this motion, but then we need to come back again to a similar motion in which this country has to be integrated in a fashion in which we can all feel as Kenyans and integrate our people for the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said. Thank you so much. Honourable Hamala is here. This House set up a committee called Committee on Implementation. So I would advise that you take notes as members contribute so that, if your motion is carried and is being implemented, you could also enrich that with the members' contributions. This chance now goes to the Honourable Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I just want to appreciate and congratulate you to sitting in the Speaker's panel, to have that privilege. You are a member who has been in this House and contributed so immensely into the development of our country. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this motion, a motion that I know every teacher, wherever they are looking at us, Mr. Speaker, and wondering why did we decide to really politicize everything in our country, especially things that are under social, education, health. We find ourselves every time so politicized that we want to make our country look a country that we are not one in one. Yet, Mr. Speaker, we remember when we were in school, we had teachers who came from other communities that will help us to grow, that will help us to understand Kenya is one, that we are here to unite a country. And we talk about tribalism, it is our teacher who removed us from tribalism. And therefore, even as I support, I think I want to agree with many of the members that we need a policy. This is a policy that must guide this process. A policy that we must ensure, number one, for those who are young and would wish to traverse Kenya and understand Kenya, they must be given that opportunity. But for those who are in near age of retirement, we must also give them the opportunity to go closer home. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, even as we speak about delocalization, we have to ask ourselves the pros. What is good in it? What is bad in it? I think this House has to now assist. I know there are many issues with TSC. I have many people who have sent me SMSs. They were moved, their families are young. But also, in government, we must ask ourselves now, in a government where you have public service and you have every tribe, do you want to work as Kenya? Do you want to enrich your country for people to appreciate you as a country? Or do we want to remain in this tribalism disease that sometimes takes us so backward until even in employment, when you come, we want to now again forget we are in public service. And one of the roles of public service is to ensure every Kenyan has an opportunity. That opportunity is I can work somewhere, and in 3 years I can go back and work somewhere else. And I think that will be the most healthiest way, or even 5 years, and go back and work somewhere else just to appreciate Kenya. Yes, I know we have challenges of our children and families, but we forget also in county governments at the moment, Mr. Speaker, you find that a nurse or a doctor, if you are working in Nandi and you want now to transfer to go back to your wife, you are told you have to look for someone who will come and replace. And we need to sort out that. There is no way that a Kenyan can go and work somewhere and cannot move when he needs to for purposes of integration. So I think even as we speak on all this, we must look at the policy. We must request ourselves to understand this is one country, a country that you would wish your daughter, your son to go and work into another county, but you cannot tell me I grew up in Kakamega, in Malava, I will school in Malava, be a teacher in Malava. It will also be unfair. But those who are willing also, the policy must allow, because you will find someone willing to work at home, that is okay. But let us not also push it so much and make our country a country where we will never appreciate any other person from a different tribe. As I appreciate the nominees, Mr. Speaker, I see now we have, and I'm hoping our CS of Education now will take up this. There are issues in TSC that became very political, and we must deal with them. We cannot politicize an institution that employs, an institution that is supposed to see us move to the next level and our children. And if there's something that makes us step here, Mr. Speaker, most of us is education. That is what made us move from one level to another. The time we started politicizing education and making others, they can use this book and others use this book, Mr. Speaker, is the time we destroyed education, where we decided we have international schools where our children go, and decided our public schools are schools where we can just say today, change the system. Tomorrow, teachers are moving. I will tell you, I was last weekend in a board meeting at Moi Girls Bukoli, and I was very sad at that time because the deputy principal was moved. Yet, this is a science school. This is a school where we are just about to go to exams. And I really wished TSC would have just waited for us to finalize the exams, the kids do the exams, and you move the teacher in January. But then now I say to myself, surely I am hoping by this time the CS education will have to take, he has no time, Mr. Speaker. He needs to move with speed, especially to see how are we going to do exams of year 6 and standard 8. Are we ready for the year 6 to go to boarding schools? Yes, we are. Do we have the schools? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the facilities, especially the dorms, the dinings? And more importantly, to look at the primary schools at the moment. And I'll tell you in Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, it is so sad. You find 6 kids on a desk. They write when their hands are behind because you are so squeezed. And I'm wondering what happened to the desks. Mr. Speaker, I've not understood why 100 billion goes to books in this country with publishers. And yet every year we are just publishing books. Our days, the same book would be used for those who are moving to that class. What happened? Did we decide to make business with education until we've reached at this point where our children in public schools are finding themselves wondering, why is it that we have been so discriminated? And therefore, as I finalize, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say I support, but we must agree as a House that we need a policy that will guide every sector. That if a teacher would want to stay home, fine. If those who are young can go and integrate with Kenyans, the better. But for the unity of the country, education is what brings the rich and poor together, and we must learn that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The shorter, the better. The Honorable Beatrice Kemei.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by congratulating you for sitting in the speakers panel. I know you are equal to the task. I listened to you debate yesterday, and I was so impressed. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, and I've seen we have visitors around, and when we are debating on teachers, I'm sure this is normal. I've been a teacher for 20 years plus, and today, as we discuss and debate on deployment or delocalization of teachers, it is something that is very close to my heart because I've been in the sector. Maybe to start with, Mr. Speaker, I want to support the people who brought the motion on board. It is very, very, very important. And over the years, Mr. Speaker, TSC has worked, I don't know how to express, but the point is that they are not doing as expected. Why am I saying so? During our days, when we were asking for transfer, like for me, I asked for transfer to come from Kericho to Nairobi, where I taught for over 12 years or 13 years. It was not very easy, but that is just asking for a transfer. And I also realized that many other teachers were asking for transfer from one place to another, just to join their families or for many other reasons. It was not very easy, Mr. Speaker, but at the moment, what I can say is that TSC, when they started this delocalization, many teachers have been affected in the sense that looking at the age of some of them and being told to move from one county to another, it brought so many problems. Teachers from my county have actually been complaining. You look at the teachers, they are stressed. Some of them have got mental issues now. And looking at some of them, their pay slips cannot even hold. So in this case, delocalization and deployment of teachers, to me, as we discuss, should be considered and considered with a policy. Kenya Kwanza, when the president signed a charter with the teachers for that matter, the point that was clear is that for delocalization, it should happen to the new people, those who are newly employed, and I do support that one. But the people who have stayed in the profession for many years and then being told to move, these men being told to move to another county, they have not been cooking for themselves, their families have been cooking for them, or their wives for that case. It affects them seriously. And I want to say that that one should be looked into consideration and ask a teacher, those who are willing to move can actually be allowed to move, but those who are not willing, they shouldn't. And especially if they are moving on promotion, I would say it is normal. Because some teachers can be promoted, but the station where they are, and maybe the county where they are, there is no space. And if they are willing to move to another county, that one, I would say it is out of their choice. So, Mr. Speaker, I would say that some teachers have responsibilities. Some of them are taking care of old parents. Some of them are taking care of many other people in the society, knowing that teachers are the people, they are looked upon in the society. So for this case, Mr. Speaker, I would say this delocalization will do them no good. And Mr. Speaker, some communities are hostile to outsiders. They are used to maybe teachers from their communities and from their locality. So a teacher being moved to such places, Mr. Speaker, when they move there, they are actually stressed and they may not be received well, and this one will also affect their performance and the performance of the students. Mr. Speaker, I would also say that when teachers, some teachers actually teach in hardship areas and they get some hardship allowances, but when they are moved, some of them are moved to areas which are not hardship areas, and therefore there is no hardship allowance, and maybe they have actually engaged their pay slips. This one, Mr. Speaker, will affect the teachers seriously. And you see, TSC does not give notice to these teachers. So some of them have their pay slips being negative, and that one is not good for them and even for the rest of the community. Maybe to add on that, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that some schools don't have facilities, especially those ones at the primary schools. They don't have houses for the teachers, and even the locality, they are just small centers. So asking a teacher, not even primary alone, even secondary school teachers, asking a teacher to move to such places, Mr. Speaker, with no facilities, we are doing harm to such teachers. Being asked to go and live in mud houses, for that matter, because there are no facilities, no electricity, no water. What are we really saying? We are degrading the status of the teachers. Mr. Speaker, I would also say that when it comes to the localization, I know of some field officers or some county directors and the like who want to settle scores, and even some principals and head teachers, they want to settle scores, and they would want to give out the names of teachers they are not agreeing with. So that is just one reason why they may be transferred, and that is just for a punishment to such teachers. And I would say, Mr. Speaker, teachers should not be transferred as such. And you will realize that, Mr. Speaker, transferring teachers leads to family breakups. I know of cases, Mr. Speaker, even where I come from, where somebody has gone to marry a second wife, not out of willingness, but because they didn't have anybody to cook for them and to stay with. And the family back home is suffering, Mr. Speaker. So to me, teachers should be allowed to live or to work and to teach where they are best, they like it best, and more so where they are more comfortable. I would also say, Mr. Speaker, that the TSC should fashion a system where teachers' remuneration is a tandem with academic qualifications, where one works. If it is in primary, I would say that they should be paid equivalent to their qualifications. If it is in high school, it should be the same, or even in post-primary, Mr. Speaker. So that in this case, we have so many primary school teachers who have also attained degrees, but they are still remaining in that place. I think something should be done with the TSC, and I believe the new CS now will have to look around and put things in order, Mr. Speaker. I would also ask the Ministry of Education to develop structures in all schools equally so that it can attract good student population. Why am I saying this, Mr. Speaker? Many teachers would want to teach in schools with good structures, where also performance is good, leaving out the schools which are upcoming, and this one will actually affect most of these coming up schools. So I would say this, the ministry should put up structures. I would also say that the enrollment of the school is attracted by the performance. It is also attracted by the structure. So I would want to support this motion by saying that teachers should be allowed to actually teach where they are. And once more, I want to congratulate all the nominees and thank this House for the job well done. Some of them were teachers. For example, Honorable Florence Pore, who is my predecessor. She's been a teacher, and now she's been approved as a CS. So once more, Mr. Speaker, I am saying that teachers should be allowed to teach where they are, and TSC should take it seriously to look at the issues and the matters of the teachers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Everyone has decided to do their 10 minutes, so I hope members understand. This chance, 4 minutes to go, will go to the Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance, even if it's 4 minutes, but I hope I'll get some small addition later on. Let me thank Honorable Amala for this motion. Yesterday, when he moved it, I told him not to deal with me directly. And let me therefore declare, Honorable Speaker, that I'm a teacher leader. And I'm the chairman of the Teachers of Kenya. And I really want to thank Honorable Hamala for having brought this motion. This motion would never be here, Honorable Hamala, if the Teacher Service Commission, and I'm possibly also speaking to it, would actually carry out what we call public participation and involve all stakeholders in every policy that they undertake. The policy of delocalization, what has brought it to the floor of Parliament is lack of public participation, lack of involvement of the stakeholders, the unions, KNUT, KUPPET, other stakeholders, KEPSHA, NAT, the teachers themselves. And I think as we move forward, it will be very important that the Teacher Service Commission brings together its house of stakeholders so that they can be able, and we can be able, to deal with issues of education without completely politicizing them the way Honorable Elachi has spoken about it. Because if we go that trend, it will be difficult. Honorable Speaker, this policy appears in 2018. But what is the background? Before independence, schools which have been spoken about very well by Farah Malim were actually run by the missionaries. But later on, the schools were handed to government of Kenya. And that is how the Teachers Service Commission was therefore formed around 1967 to come and distribute these teachers to those schools. Honorable Speaker, prior to that, every school had got its own teachers, paying them whatever it wanted and dealing with them whichever way they wanted. The Teacher Service Commission was brought to bear in order to make sure that there is a harmonized system of administering the teachers in this country. And therefore, having enacted the 2010 Constitution, it's very important that the Teacher Service Commission adheres to the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, Section 47, Item 47 of the Kenyan Constitution is the one that actually brings this motion to bear in Parliament. That it talks about fair administrative action. Yes, every organ that is required to administer the welfare of individuals in Kenya, and in this case the Teacher Service Commission for the teachers, has a right to administer. But it says that in the event that administrative action will adversely injure or affect the freedoms and rights of that individual must be informed in writing. This is where we lost it completely, because it required public participation to bring to bear Section 47 of the Constitution insofar as delocalization was being put to the teachers. And therefore, Parliament also in Section 47, subsection A, has been given authority to actually make such a laws that will make sure that 47 is adhered to. And therefore, Parliament is very well in order to deal with this matter, if possible, once and conclusively. In 2018, when this policy comes, it comes more or less like a punitive action, and which then has continued to hit the teachers. Until now, the teachers are not only living in fear, they are living under a situation of duress and are not very happy. The way. Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Your time is now 1 o'clock. The Honorable Member's extra time will be given to him when the motion next resumes. Honorable Members, at the time being 1 p.m.,
This House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 26th of October 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
Kipchumba Murkomen, former leader, and now a minister. Waziri, karibu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for indulging me to make this personal statement, Mr. Speaker. Under Standing Order number 58, to make my personal statement following my nomination by His Excellency President William Ruto to serve as a Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Roads, Transport and Public Works. Mr. Speaker, this morning, our sister house, the National Assembly, approved our names, and the names of the Cabinet Secretary's nominees approved includes my name, as it is now in public domain that I was nominated by the President to serve in that docket. And following that nomination, Mr. Speaker, it is now my departure from this august house is imminent. I am, Mr. Speaker, standing here with mixed feelings